What Vikings did to their enemies' wives, a truth more horrifying than you imagine. Hey guys, tonight we are going to drift back in time, further than we usually do, to a place of mist and sea spray, of turf-roofed homes and the low bleating of sheep on a wind-swept cliff. We're settling into the life of a woman on the coast of early medieval England, just as a shadow begins to stretch across the northern sea. It's a story about what happens when your world, with all its familiar comforts and hardships, is about to be shattered by the arrival of strangers whose reputation for violence would echo for 1,000 years. And let's be clear, if this were a choose-your-own-adventure story, the odds are you probably won't survive this, at least not with your life unchanged. The world we're visiting tonight is not a gentle one. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. I love seeing this community grow. Go ahead and post your location and what time it is where you are. It's always fascinating to see where everyone is tuning in from across the globe. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The first thing you notice when you wake is the salt. It's not just a taste on your tongue, but a feeling, a permanent dampness that seeps into the wool of your blanket, the thatch of the roof, and the very marrow of your bones. Your world is one defined by the great grey expanse of the North Sea, a constant companion that gives and takes in equal measure. It offers up fish in its nets and whispers secrets on its winds. Today, its whispers are unsettling. You push aside the heavy wool flap that serves as your chamber door, stepping from the relative dark of the sleeping quarters into the main room of the longhouse. The air is thick with the ghosts of last night's fire, a comforting blend of wood smoke, roasting meat, and unwashed bodies. It's the smell of home. In the center of the room, the hearth is a bed of glowing embers, and your mother is already there, her silhouette moving with a familiar, practiced rhythm as she stirs a pot of oat gruel. It's the same breakfast you've had nearly every day of your life. No one's complaining about a lack of avocado toast just yet. Variety isn't a big priority when just having enough to eat is the main goal. Your chores begin without a word. You fetch water from the communal well, the wooden buckets heavy and awkward, sloshing cold water onto your leather shoes. You can feel the eyes of the village on you, not with any particular interest, but with the simple awareness of a small community where everyone's business is to some extent everyone else's. You see Ida, her face already smudged with flour, beginning the day's work of grinding grain at the stone quern. You give her a small, tired smile. Grinding grain is the original soul-crushing CrossFit, a full-body workout that leaves your arms and back aching by midday. But today the usual rhythm feels off. The talk at the well is quieter, more furtive. The men gathered near the shore, ostensibly mending the long, elegant fishing boat that is the village's lifeline, are speaking in low, serious tones. Their eyes keep scanning the horizon, not for the telltale signs of a fish shoal or a change in the weather, but for something else. Something they don't want to see. The rumours started a month ago, brought by a travelling merchant selling salt and a few precious iron trinkets. He was a jittery man with a wild look in his eyes, and he spoke of a raid on the holy island of Lindisfarne further up the coast. He called the attackers heathens, devils, wolfmen from the sea. He said they came in ships with dragon heads carved into their prows, snarling at the waves. They fell upon the monastery, a place of prayer and peace, with axes and swords. They slaughtered the monks, stole the golden crosses and silver chalices, and dragged others away in chains. At the time, the story seemed too fantastical to be true. Devils from the sea. It sounded like a tale to frighten children, a story spun from too much ale and a stormy night. Your father, the village elder, had dismissed it. A tall tale to drive up the price of his salt, he'd grumbled, but you saw the way he gripped the handle of his own bearded axe a little tighter that evening. The story was so outlandish, so outside the normal run of things. Sure, there were rival villages, occasional disputes over grazing land that might come to blows, but this was different. This was a violation of the natural order. Attacking a house of God was unthinkable. Now the whispers are closer. A fisherman from a hamlet a day's walk south swears he saw a strange sail, a single vast square of red and white striped cloth, moving unnaturally fast against the wind. He said it vanished into the mist before he could be sure, but the image has haunted him. Others speak of farms found, burned livestock slaughtered, and families gone with no tracks leading away but those that end at the sea. You carry your buckets back to the longhouse, the water slopping your mind, turning these rumours over and over. You try to picture it a dragon-headed ship. You've seen dragons in the illuminated manuscripts. The priest sometimes shows beautiful, terrifying beasts coiled in the margins of holy text. The idea of one, made real, carved from wood, and gliding across the water towards you is a chilling thought. It feels like a myth breaking free from a book and entering your world. After the morning meal, you take a basket and head for the cliffs to gather seabird eggs. It's a precarious task, but one you've done since you were a girl. The wind whips your hair across your face, and the cries of the gulls are a wild chorus around you. From up here, the world feels vast and open. You can see the whole village laid out below a small cluster of timber and turf houses huddled together for warmth and safety, a thin ribbon of smoke rising from each hearth. A patchwork of green fields stretches inland, dotted with sheep that look like scattered tufts of wool. And beyond it, all the endless churning sea. It's beautiful in a stark and rugged way. But today, the beauty is laced with a new kind of fear. You scan the horizon, just as you've seen the men do. The grey water merges with the grey sky, a seamless, empty canvas. There's nothing there. You feel a small rush of relief, and then a pang of foolishness for letting the stories get to you. It's just the sea, the same sea that has provided for your people for generations. As you carefully navigate the cliff path, you think about the structure of your life. It's a life of hard work, yes, but it's predictable. Your future is largely mapped out. Soon, you'll be wed to a boy from a neighboring village, a strategic alliance to strengthen both communities. His name is Kinrick. He's strong and quiet, a good farmer. You don't love him, not in the way the poets sing of, but you like him. You know he will be a steady husband, and you will be a good wife. You will run a household, have children, and grow old. It's a simple, solid path. The thought of it is comforting, like a warm blanket on a cold night. You pause for a moment, tucking a loose strand of hair back into your linen head covering. Down on the beach, a group of children are playing, their laughter carried up to you on the wind. They're chasing the waves, shrieking with delight as the cold foam rushes over their bare feet. It's a scene of perfect, fragile peace. And you feel a sudden fierce surge of protectiveness for this small, predictable world of yours. The rumors are a crack in that world. They suggest a reality where men don't abide by any of the rules you understand. They come from the sea, a place of chaos, and they bring that chaos with them. Historians still argue whether these early raids were centrally planned invasions or simply opportunistic attacks by independent chieftains. To you, of course, that distinction means nothing. Whether they are a king's army or a band of pirates makes no difference. They are a threat that your mind can't quite grasp. They are the other, something so foreign it might as well be monstrous. You finish gathering the eggs, their smooth, speckled shells cool in your hands. On the way back, you pass the small stone church at the edge of the village. It's the sturdiest building for miles, a symbol of God's permanence and protection. You slip inside. The air is cool and smells of old stone beeswax and incense. A single shaft of light from a high, narrow window illuminates the dust motes dancing in the air. You kneel on the cold floor, the familiar Latin of a prayer forming on your lips. You pray for your family, for your village, for Sinric. And then, in a quiet, fearful whisper, you add a prayer for protection against the devils from the sea. That evening, the mood in the longhouse is somber. The fire crackles and spits, casting long dancing shadows on the walls. Your father sits by the hearth, sharpening the edge of his axe with a whetstone. The rhythmic shh sound is the only thing that breaks the heavy silence. It's a sound of preparation, an admission that he too believes the rumors now. You busy yourself with mending a fishing net, your fingers working the shuttle and line with an autonomy that leaves your mind free to wander. You think about the things you own. Not many. A few linen tunics, a woolen cloak, a comb carved from bone that was a gift from your mother, a small wooden cross you wear around your neck. These simple objects make up the physical reality of your life. The thought of a stranger's hands touching them, taking them, is a profound violation. Before bed, you step outside one last time. The night is clear for once, and the sky is a breathtaking tapestry of stars. There's no moon, and the sheer number of them is overwhelming. You try to find the star patterns the old women have taught you, the plough, the hunter. They are ancient and unchanging, a map for the heavens. They are a comfort. You breathe in the cold, salty air and listen. The only sound is the rhythmic crash of waves on the shore below. It's a sound that has lulled you to sleep every night of your life. But tonight, you find yourself listening past it, straining your ears for a different sound. The dip of oars in the water, the creak of a wooden hull, the murmur of foreign voices. You hear nothing but the sea. You tell yourself you are being foolish. The world is as it was yesterday and the day before that. But as you finally lie down to sleep, pulling the scratchy wool blanket up to your chin, the comforting sound of the surf seems to have taken on a new menacing quality. It no longer sounds like a lullaby. It sounds like a warning. A relentless, patient, whispering warning that something is coming, carried on the tide from the vast, dark emptiness of the northern sea. You think about some of the more unusual stories, fringe tales really, about how these Northmen could navigate by strange sunstones, even on cloudy days, a kind of magic that let them cross the open ocean. It's probably nonsense, but it makes them seem even more alien. You close your eyes, but sleep is a long time coming. The quiet hum of your small world has been disturbed, and a deep primal part of you knows with a certainty that chills you to the soul that it will never be quite the same again. The sun rises as it always does, but the light that filters into the longhouse feels thin and weak. Sleep, when it finally came, was shallow and filled with dreams of crashing waves and splintering wood. You wake with the familiar ache in your back from the straw-stuffed mattress, a reminder that comfort is a luxury you've never known. Still, it's your ache in your home, and there's a strange solace in that. The routine of the day begins, a deliberate, conscious effort to push back the unease that has settled over the village like a coastal fog. You and your mother work the large upright loom that stands against one wall of the main room. It's a slow, methodical process. The rhythmic thump of the weaver's baton as you press the weft threads into place is a sound as old as your people. Your fingers, nimble and sure, dance between the taut warp threads of wool. You are weaving a simple checkered pattern using dyes made from weld for yellow and wode for blue. It's a painstaking craft, and a single bolt of cloth can take weeks to complete. It's also a good time for conversation, a space where women's voices can rise above the general din of the household. Ethel heard from a peddler that the king is raising an army. Your mother says, her eyes fixed on her own section of the weaving. Her voice is low, almost a whisper. To guard the coasts. An army, you ask the thought, both reassuring and terrifying. The king is a distant, almost mythical figure. The idea that he is aware of the threat feels significant. Are they coming here? Who knows? She sighs, and the sound is heavy with a resignation that seems to belong to a generation that has seen more hardship than yours. The king has many shores to protect. We are a small village. We must put our faith in God and the strength of our own men. You glance over at your father's empty chair by the hearth. He and the other able-bodied men have been gone since first light, walking the cliff paths, their eyes trained on the sea. They left with a grim determination, their axes and a few rusty spears, looking pitifully inadequate against the imagined horrors of dragon-prowed ships. It's a gesture that feels more like a prayer than a practical defense. The day wears on a strange mix of the utterly mundane and the deeply anxious. You help salt the morning's catch of herring, layering the silvery fish with coarse salt in a large barrel. The sharp, clean smell of the salt and the slick feel of the fish scales under your fingers are so normal, so real, that for a moment you can almost forget the fear. You listen to the village women as they work alongside you, their chatter a constant hum. They talk of a sick cow, of a new baby, with a worrisome cough of the price of grain. But underneath it all, the other topic bubbles up, unavoidable. The stories of the Northmen have grown more elaborate with each telling. Now they are 7 feet tall, with eyes like ice and the strength of bears. They eat the flesh of their enemies. They can't be killed by ordinary means. It's becoming a legend, a folklore monster, even as the threat of its reality hangs over you. It's like a medieval version of a viral news story, getting more sensational with every share. In the afternoon, a welcome distraction arrives. Sinric, your betrothed, walks into the village leading a donkey laden with sacks of flour from his family's farm. He is broad-shouldered and has a slow, shy smile. His presence is a comforting anchor to the future. You'd planned a future that suddenly feels precarious. He finds you by the longhouse, where you're tending the small herb garden, a patch of green you've nurtured with fierce pride. You have parsley, thyme, and marjoram plants that add precious flavor to an otherwise bland diet. I brought the flour your father asked for, he says, his voice a low rumble. He avoids your eyes, looking at a spot on the ground just past your feet. You are not used to speaking so directly. Your interactions have always been buffered by the presence of your families. That is good. You reply, your own voice sounding small and formal. The stores were low. An awkward silence hangs between you. He shifts his weight from one foot to the other. Then he reaches into a leather pouch at his belt and pulls something out. He presses it into your hand. It's a small, intricately carved bird fashioned from a piece of smooth, pale bone. Its wings are outstretched as if in flight. I made it for you, he mumbles. For later. You know what he means. It's a small personal token, a promise of the larger Morgan Gifu, the morning gift that he will present to you the day after your wedding. That gift, by law, would be yours alone, a measure of security in your new life. This little bird is the start of that. It's a symbol of the orderly, lawful world. You both belong to a world of contracts and customs where a woman has recognized rights and protections. You close your fingers around the smooth bone, its coolness, a comfort in your palm. It's beautiful, you say, and this time you mean it. You look up and meet his eyes, and he gives you that small, shy smile. In that moment, the fear recedes. The future feels possible again. This is real. The solid boy in front of you, the little bone bird in your hand, the promise of a shared life. The stories of sea devils seem like a bad dream. You invite him to share the evening meal, and he accepts. The presence of a guest lifts the spirits in the longhouse. Your father returns with the other men as the sun begins to set. They are cold-tired and have seen nothing. Their fruitless vigil has left them feeling both relieved and foolish, and they are eager to return to the warmth of the fire and a mug of weak ale. Your father claps Cynric on the back and engages him in a loud conversation about crop yields and the health of his livestock. It's a man's world of practical concerns. But you see the way your father's eyes still dart towards the door, the way his hand never strays far from the axe that now leans against his chair. During the meal of smoked herring hard cheese and the coarse dark bread that Anglo-Saxons called hlaf, the conversation inevitably turns back to the raids. The wergild on a man of God must be enormous. Cynric's uncle muses aloud. He's thinking of it in your terms, your laws. The wergild was the highly detailed system of blood money, a specific price for every person depending on their social rank. Killing an earl cost a fortune. Killing a simple farmer cost much less. It was a way to prevent endless cycles of revenge by turning injury into a financial transaction. These heathens must be mad to incur such a debt. Your father just grunts. They don't follow our laws or God's laws. They are a law unto themselves. The talk of laws and customs is another attempt to frame the threat in a way that makes sense. But the terrifying truth, the one that no one wants to say aloud, is that these strangers don't care about your king, your God, or your laws. They operate outside of your entire frame of reference. The thought makes them seem even more alien. Historians and linguists still debate how much mutual intelligibility there was between Old English and Old Norse at this early stage. Would you even be able to understand them? Or would their voices be just another terrifying inhuman sound in the chaos of an attack? It's a sobering thought. You probably couldn't even ask them to pass the salt, let alone plead for your life. As night falls, Cynric prepares to leave. The road between your villages isn't safe after dark. There are no streetlights, no police patrols, just the darkness and whatever might be hiding in it. He says his goodbyes, and you walk with him to the edge of the village. The air has grown cold, and a heavy blanket of cloud has rolled in from the sea, obscuring the stars you found so comforting the night before. The world feels smaller, more enclosed. Be safe on the road, you say. I will, he promises. I will see you in a fortnight, at the turning of the season. He hesitates for a moment, then reaches out and briefly touches your arm. It's a bold gesture, and it sends a small shock through you. Then he turns and disappears into the gloom, the sound of his footsteps fading until there is only the murmur of the sea again. You stand there for a long time, the little bone bird clutched in your hand, feeling the profound sadness of his departure. He is the future, and he just walked away into the darkness. You return to the longhouse. The fire has burned low, and most of the family is already asleep in the partitioned-off sleeping areas. Privacy is a concept that doesn't really exist. You live your whole life in the company of others, their smells, their snores, their arguments. Sometimes it's suffocating, but tonight it's a comfort. You lie down on your mattress, your mind replaying the day. The feel of the wool threads, the smell of the salt, the weight of the bone bird, the brief touch of Sinric's hand on your arm. These are the small, solid moments that make up a life. Outside, the wind begins to pick up, whistling through the cracks in the longhouse walls. The sea sounds louder tonight, angrier. It's a restless sound. But inside, there is a fragile peace. The men are home. The door is barred. You are surrounded by your family. You are safe. You are warm. You drift towards sleep, your mind lulled by the familiar rhythms of your home and the false promise that tomorrow will be just like today. You don't know that normalcy is not a state of being, but a fleeting, precious moment that is already gone. You are standing on the shore of your life, and you cannot see the great silent wave that is about to break. Dawn breaks, not with a gentle glow, but with a cold, insistent grey light that seeps through the cracks in the walls. You are already awake. No one in the longhouse has slept well. The wind that rose last night howled like a hungry wolf, and the sea's roar was a restless, angry counterpoint. You lie on your pallet, listening, feeling a knot of dread in your stomach that has become your new, unwelcome companion. The mundane morning tasks begin in a muted silence. There is no easy chatter, no hum of routine. Every sound is sharp, every movement deliberate, as if you are all actors in a play, desperately trying to remember your lines for a scene called A Normal Morning. It is young Thomas, a boy of no more than 14, whose turn it is to watch the cliffs who shatters the pretense. You are outside scattering grain for the chickens when the sound comes. It is not a shout or a scream. It is the sound of the village horn, a long, deep, gut-wrenching blast that echoes off the hills and seems to make the very air tremble. It is a sound you have only ever heard in drills, a sound that has always been hypothetical. Now it is real. The chickens scatter in a flurry of panicked wings. For a frozen second, the entire village stops. Every head turns towards the cliffs. Then chaos erupts. Doors are thrown open. People spill out of their homes, their faces pale with a mixture of fear and disbelief. Your mother grabs you, her fingers digging into your arm, her face a mask of stone. "Inside, now," she commands, her voice tight and low. Your father is already running towards the center of the village, his axe from last night in his hand. He is no longer a farmer, a village elder. He is a warrior, or at least he is playing the part. From the relative darkness of the longhouse, you peer through a crack in the door. You see Thomas running, stumbling down the path from the cliffs, his face white as a sheet. He is pointing, shouting, but the wind snatches his words away. But you don't need to hear him. You just have to look where he is pointing. And there they are. The rumors did not do them justice. They are not just ships. They are predators. 3 of them gliding out of the morning mist like nightmares taking form. Their long, slender hulls are black against the grey water, impossibly sleek and fast. And at the prow of each, a carved dragon's head rears up, jaws open in a silent wooden scream. They are exactly as the stories described. The sight is so utterly alien, so wrong that your mind struggles to accept it. The sun, finally breaking through the clouds, glints off something along the sides of the ships. It takes you a moment to realize what you're seeing, a row of painted round shields hung along the gunwales like the scales of some great sea serpent. "The church!" Your father bellows, his voice cutting through the rising tide of panic. "Get the women and children to the church." The village's disaster preparedness plan, which you now realize mostly consisted of hoping it doesn't happen, clicks into a sort of frantic, disorganized motion. Women are grabbing their children, pulling them from their beds, their small, sleepy faces crumpled in confusion and fear. Your mother moves with a frightening efficiency. She shoves a small sack into your hands. It contains a loaf of bread, a skin of water, and a small carved wooden cross. It is everything she thinks she can save. You watch her for a moment, this woman who is the center of your world, and see a terror in her eyes so profound it almost paralyzes you. You move to help your limbs feeling heavy and disconnected. You grab the hand of a small boy, Ida's son, who is standing frozen in the middle of the path, crying silently. You pull him along with you, his small hand lost in yours. Your other hand instinctively goes to the pouch at your belt, feeling the cool, smooth shape of the little bone bird from Sinric. It feels like a relic from another lifetime, a life you were living only yesterday. The men are gathering around your father. There are perhaps 20 of them, ranging from boys barely old enough to shave to old men with stooped shoulders. They hold rusty spears, wood-cutting axes, and a few pitiful-looking swords. They are farmers and fishermen, not soldiers. They are arranging themselves in a crude line along the path that leads up from the beach, a thin, fragile barrier of flesh and iron. You see the fear on their faces, but you also see a grim resolve. They are standing between their homes and the dragons on the sea. As you are herded towards the small stone church on the hill, you risk a look back at the sea. The ships are closer now, so much closer. You can see the single vast square sails, striped in red and white, billowing in the wind. And you can see the men. Figures swarming on the decks, large and broad, their silhouettes made larger by helmets and cloaks of fur. Historians still argue about the exact number of men a typical longship could carry, with estimates ranging from 40 to as many as 90. Even if it's the lower number, the math is simple and terrifying. You have 20 men. They have over 100. The key feature of the Viking longship, the thing that made it such a devastating weapon of war, was its shallow draft. This is a mainstream historical fact, but for you, it is a lesson learned in the most brutal way possible. They don't need a deep harbor or a dock. They can ride the waves almost all the way to shore and land directly on a beach. On your beach, the same stretch of shingle where you've collected shells your whole life, where the children chased the waves just 2 days ago. They are not coming to your village. They are coming into it. You are pushed through the heavy oak door of the church. The air inside is cold and damp, smelling of stone and fear. It is crowded, filled with the huddled shapes of the 30 or so women, children, and old people deemed unfit to fight. The priest is there, his face ashen, chanting a frantic, whispered prayer in Latin. Someone is sobbing quietly in a corner. The single high window casts a thin sliver of light onto the stone floor, but it offers no warmth. You are plunged into a world of shadows and terrified whispers. They're not even men, a woman near you whimpers. They're berserkers, bear shirts. An axe blow won't even slow them down. You've heard these fringe tales. Warriors who work themselves into a divine fury, biting their shields, feeling no pain, fighting with the strength of 10 men. You had dismissed it as another exaggeration, another piece of driftwood on the river of rumour. But huddled here in the cold, dark church, it feels horrifyingly plausible. How can your fathers and brothers, men who get tired and sore and who bleed just like you, stand against men who do not feel pain? Someone bars the heavy church door from the inside. The thick slab of oak groans as the wooden beam is dropped into place. It's a comforting sound, but you know it's a futile gesture. A lock only works if the person on the other side believes in the concept of locked doors. You have a sinking feeling these men do not. The sounds from outside are muffled now. You can hear the shouts of your own men, thin and reedy, through the stone walls. And then you hear a new sound, a deep, rhythmic chanting from the sea. a guttural alien language that makes the hair on your arms stand up. It's a war song, a promise. It is the sound of the storm about to break. You find a place against the cold stone wall, pulling Ida's little boy into your lap and wrapping your arms around him. He is trembling, burying his face in your tunic. You try to murmur something comforting, but the words catch in your throat. You are a child yourself, trying to comfort a child. You close your eyes and picture Sinric's face, his shy smile. You picture the future. You were promised a home, children, a life. You try to hold on to that image, that feeling of warmth and safety, as if it were a shield. Then comes the sound you have been dreading. It is a grinding, scraping noise, the sound of 3 longship hulls laden with men and weapons and violent intent sliding up onto the stones of your beach. It is the sound of their world physically making contact with yours. A profound silence follows. The chanting stops. The shouting stops. It is a heavy, expectant silence, a breath held before the plunge. The entire world seems to be waiting. You sit in the cold, dark church, clutching a small child and a bone bird, and you listen. You listen to the silence, and you know with absolute certainty that it will be the last moment of peace you will know for a very, very long time. The silence that follows the scraping of the hulls is the loudest sound you have ever heard. It's a physical pressure, a weight in the air that makes it hard to breathe. Inside the church, 30 pairs of lungs are afraid to draw breath. Every heart is a frantic drum against the ribs. You can feel the small boy in your lap trembling, a continuous silent vibration of pure terror. You hug him tighter, as if your arms could form a shield against what is coming. Then the silence is broken. It is a sound that is not human. A roar, a collective guttural howl from 100 throats that seems to come from the very dawn of the world. It is a hunting cry, a sound of pure, joyous violence. And it is answered feebly by the desperate shouts of your own men. The next few minutes are an eternity of noise, a symphony of destruction heard through thick stone walls. You hear the sharp, percussive clang of metal hitting metal. You hear the sickening, wet thump of an axe finding a softer target. You hear screams. Some are voices you know, the high, panicked cry of a boy who was your childhood friend, the deep, agonized bellow of a man you have respected your entire life. And interwoven with them are the triumphant alien shouts of the attackers. You can't see the battle, and that makes it worse. Your imagination, fueled by fear, paints a scene of horror on the blank canvas of the stone walls. You press your hands over the ears of the little boy, a futile gesture against the tide of sound. You close your own eyes, trying to block it all out, trying to find the quiet place in your mind where Sinric's smile lives. But the sounds of slaughter are an invasion that cannot be stopped. The sounds of your world being torn apart, piece by piece, man by man. Then the sounds of the fight change. The shouting of your men fades, replaced by scattered individual cries that are cut brutally short. The metallic clashing becomes less frequent. The triumphant roars of the Northmen grow louder, closer. And then you hear them heavy, running footsteps on the path outside. Footsteps that don't stop at the edge of the village, but come directly, purposefully towards the church, towards you. A woman near the door lets out a low, desperate moan. The priest begins to pray louder, his Latin a frantic, stumbling river of words. The footsteps stop right outside. The heavy silence returns, but this time it is 100 times more menacing. It is the silence of the wolf outside the sheepfold. Boom! The entire church door shudders, the sound vibrating through the stone floor and up into your bones. The great wooden beam that bars it groans in protest. A collective gasp rises from the huddled crowd. Boom! A crack appears in the oak, a jagged line of light in the darkness. Dust motes dance in the sudden sunbeam. Someone screams a high, thin sound of pure hysteria. Boom, boom, boom. The blows are rhythmic, powerful, and utterly methodical. They are not delivered in a wild fury, but with the calm, terrifying efficiency of men who have done this 100 times before. This is just another door to them, another day at the office. The beam splinters, then cracks, then shatters. With a final explosive crash, the door is ripped from its iron hinges and thrown inward, flooding the church with grey daylight and monsters. They are bigger than you could have imagined. They fill the doorway, blotting out the light, their broad shoulders seeming to span the entire frame. They are dressed in leather and rough-spun wool and furs, their clothes stained with salt sweat and fresh dark blood. Their faces are framed by long wild hair and beards, many of them intricately braided with beads of amber or bone. And their eyes are flat and cold, scanning the room with a chilling predatory appraisal. You see the famous Viking broadaxe in their hands, its long handle and wide curved blade, a thing of brutal simplicity. It is an instrument designed for one purpose: to split wood shields and men with equal ease. For a moment, there is a tableau. The terrified flock of villagers and the pack of wolves that has just broken into their pen. Then they move, and the scene dissolves into pure chaos. Women scream and scramble backwards, trying to melt into the cold stone walls. Children are wailing. The Northmen pour into the church, shouting to each other in their harsh, guttural tongue. It's a language of sharp edges and rolling R's that sounds like rocks grinding together. They are not a mindless mob. They move with purpose. A few of them head straight for the altar, their eyes fixed on the only sources of real wealth in the room. They rip the silver cross from its stand, snatch up the priest's incense burner, and stuff a finely embroidered altar cloth into a sack. You watch them, and a question floats through the terror in your mind. Historians still debate the extent to which early Viking raiders were motivated by a specific anti-Christian fervour, or if monasteries were simply wealthy, poorly defended targets. Are they here because they hate your god, or simply because your god, unlike theirs, seems to prefer his treasures made of gold and silver? Looking at their greedy, efficient movements, you suspect it is the latter. The priest steps forward, his hands raised, babbling a plea or a curse in Latin. One of the raiders, a giant with a beard the colour of fire, simply backhands him. The old man crumples to the floor, and the raider places a heavy boot on his chest, leaning down to say something in a low, mocking tone before turning his attention back to the plunder. And then they turn their attention to the people. A hand, hard and calloused, grabs your arm. You are yanked to your feet. The little boy falls from your lap, crying for his mother. The grip is like iron, impersonal and absolute. You look up at the man holding you. He is young, not much older than Cynric, but his face is a hard mask, his pale blue eyes holding no emotion at all. He smells of the sea of sweat and of old smoke. He gives you a quick, assessing look, the way a farmer would size up a cow at market. He is not looking at you, the person, but at it, the object. He is evaluating your health, your strength, your potential value. In that moment of stunned close-up terror, you notice a strange detail. Tucked into his braided beard is a small, elegant comb made of antler. His nails, though stained, are clean and trimmed. It is a bizarre, unsettling detail. The legends paint them as filthy savages, but the man holding you captive appears to engage in a surprising amount of personal grooming. This quirky tidbit of civilization in the midst of such barbarism is somehow more terrifying than simple filth would be. You are dragged towards the shattered doorway. All around you, the same scene is being repeated. The younger, healthier women are being pulled from the crowd. A few of the stronger-looking boys are also being singled out. Those who fight back are met with a swift, brutal response. Ida, the boy's mother, clings to her son, screaming, and a warrior smashes the butt of his axe into her shoulder. She collapses, and another man grabs the crying child. Families are being torn apart in an instant, their desperate pleas and cries utterly ignored. You are shoved out of the church, out of the cool darkness, and into the horrifying light. You stumble, your eyes struggling to adjust. And you see what has become of your home. It is a vision from hell. 2 of the longhouses are burning, thick plumes of black smoke pouring into the grey sky. The air is filled with the smell of burning thatch and something else, something sickeningly sweet that your mind refuses to identify. The neat rows of the herb garden are trampled. The fishing boat on the shore has been smashed to pieces. The bodies of your village's defenders are scattered on the ground where they fell. You avert your eyes, but you cannot unsee the image of your neighbour. A kind man who once gave you a carved wooden toy lying still on the grass, his face turned towards a sky he can no longer see. The raid was not a battle, it was a harvest. And you are part of the crop. You are pushed and prodded into a group with a dozen other women and a few teenage boys. You are the survivors, the chosen, the spoils of a war that lasted only a few minutes. You look at the faces around you streaked with tears and dirt, their eyes wide with shock, and a grief so profound it has no voice. The little bone bird is still in your hand. You have clutched it so tightly that its shape is imprinted on your palm. It is the only thing you have left, a tiny, fragile piece of a world that no longer exists, a promise of a future that has been stolen. You stand there, a captive under a smoke-filled sky, and for the first time you look at the dragon-headed ships on your shore, not as nightmares, but as your new, terrible reality. Shock is a strange, merciful blanket. Your mind, unable to process the sheer scale of the horror, has wrapped itself in a thick grey numbness. You move because you are pushed. You breathe because your lungs do it without your permission. You are an observer in your own body, watching the scene unfold from a great and silent distance. You are herded with the other captives through what was only an hour ago your entire world. The path is littered with the debris of broken lives. A child's doll lies face down in the dirt. A weaving loom, the one your mother was working at this morning, is smashed to kindling. You walk past the smoking ruin of your own longhouse. The turf roof has collapsed inwards, and a lazy, insolent tongue of flame licks at a blackened timber. You stare at it, trying to feel something: grief, anger, loss, but there is only a vast hollow emptiness. The memories are still there. The smell of your mother's baking, the warmth of the hearth, the sound of your father's laughter. But they seem to belong to someone else. A girl who died this morning. The Northmen move with an unhurried, proprietary air. They are no longer a frantic storm of violence. They are methodical workers finishing a job. Some are carrying sacks heavy with plunder, grain, tools, cloth, anything of value. Others are rounding up the few surviving sheep and chickens. This wasn't just a raid, it's a comprehensive mobile asset stripping operation. Their movements are economical, their voices calm. They are a brotherhood, a phalag, a company bound by oaths and a shared purpose. You see two of them pause, one passing a water skin to the other, sharing a brief laugh over some private joke. The casual intimacy of the moment, set against the backdrop of your village's annihilation, is a profound and sickening disconnect. You reach the beach. The bodies of your father, your neighbors, your friends have been dragged to one side, a grim and silent testament to their courage. You force yourself not to look, focusing instead on the grey, indifferent sea. The waves are washing the shore clean, pulling small pink clouds of blood back into their depths, as if trying to erase the morning's work. One of the raiders, a man with a scar that splits his left eyebrow, approaches you with a length of rope. He gestures for your hands. You don't resist. There is no point. He works quickly, looping the rough horsehair rope around your wrists, pulling the knot tight with a practiced jerk. The fibers bite into your skin. It is not just a rope. It is a declaration. You are no longer a person. You are property, a thing to be tied up and transported. He moves down the line of captives, binding each of you, connecting you all with a longer length of rope, creating a sad human chain. Your hand is still clenched around the small bone bird. As the man ties your wrists, you manage to keep your fist closed, the secret treasure hidden within. It is an act of unconscious, desperate preservation. The last tiny piece of your identity, of your stolen future, is safe for now in the dark, warm space of your palm. When everyone is bound, you are forced to move. The raiders start shoving you towards the water. The sea, which has been the backdrop of your entire life, is now an obstacle, a gateway. The first touch of the cold water on your ankles is a violent shock, snapping you partway out of your daze. It's a baptism into a new and terrible life. You stumble on the slick stones, the waves pushing and pulling at your woolen dress. The water is up to your waist now, cold and heavy, soaking your clothes, weighing you down. The men show no concern, dragging you forward through the surf. You finally reach the side of the longship. The dragon's head at the prow looms over you, its painted eyes seeming to mock your terror. The ship is larger up close than you could have imagined, a masterpiece of lethal grace. You can see how the dark planks of its hull are overlapped, a technique called clinker building, a mainstream fact of naval architecture that in this moment seems to you like the scales of a serpent. The design makes the ship both strong and flexible, able to ride the violent waves of the northern sea. It seems less like a construction of dead wood and more like a living, breathing creature. Getting onto the ship is a clumsy, humiliating affair. You are shoved and hauled over the gunwale, landing in a heap on the hard wooden deck. You lie there for a moment, tangled in wet wool, and rope the rough planks pressing against your cheek. The ship has a unique smell, a complex blend of tar, damp wood, brine, sweat, and something acrid like old blood. It is the smell of their world. You are pushed towards the center of the ship, forced to sit on the damp deck amongst the other captives. You are all huddled together, a small island of misery in a sea of victorious raiders. You look at the faces of the other women from your village. Ida is there, her face a blank mask of shock, her shoulder already turning a dark, ugly purple. A young girl, barely a woman, is weeping silently, her body shaking with uncontrollable sobs. There is no comfort to be offered. You are all just mirrors of each other's despair. The Northmen are busy, their movements a whirlwind of purposeful activity. They load the last of their plunder, shoving sacks and barrels into any available space. They seem to pay you and the other captives no more mind than they do a sack of grain. You are cargo. The sea chests that line the sides of the ship, which you now see serve as both storage and rowing benches, are slammed shut. Oars, long and slender, are run out through oar ports in the hull. One man stands at the stern, his hand on the great steering oar. He seems to be the leader. He is older than the others, his beard streaked with grey. He is not looking at the chaos on the ship, but at the sky, at the movement of the waves. Archaeologists and historians still debate the exact nature of the Vikings' navigational techniques before the widespread adoption of the magnetic compass. You watch as he holds up a small crystalline stone to the overcast sky, turning it back and forth. You remember the rumor of the sunstone, a piece of magic that let these men navigate without the sun. Whether it's magic or a science, you can't comprehend the result is the same. It is the knowledge that brought them to your shore, and it is the knowledge that is now taking you away. The leader barks a command. The sound is sharp, authoritative. With a great collective grunt, the men on the shore put their shoulders to the hull and push. The keel grinds over the stones of the beach, and with a final lurch, the long ship is afloat. The men who pushed it off wade quickly and climb aboard nimble as cats. The great square sail is still furled around the mast. The power now comes from the men themselves. The leader shouts another command, a rhythmic chant, and in perfect brutal unison the oars dip into the water. The ship surges forward. Another command, another pull of the oars. The ship picks up speed, gliding away from the shore with a terrifying swiftness. You scramble to your knees, ignoring the rough rope on your wrists, and look back. Your village, your home. It's shrinking with every pull of the oars. The burning longhouses are just columns of smoke. The figures of the old and the wounded left behind on the beach are getting smaller and smaller until they are just indistinct specks. The coastline, the cliffs you have known your entire life. The familiar shape of the land against the sky is flattening, receding, becoming just a thin, dark line between the grey sea and the grey sky. You watch until it is gone. You watch until there is nothing left but the endless churning water in every direction. The wind is cold, and it whips the sea spray into your face, mingling with the silent tears that have finally begun to fall. You are on a dragon's back, surrounded by wolves, and you are heading into the great unknown void of the North Sea. The journey has begun. The first day at sea is a blur of misery. The longship, which looked so sleek and graceful from the shore, is a wild, untamed beast on the open water. It rises and falls with the rolling grey waves, a relentless, sickening motion that turns your stomach inside out. You are violently seasick, as are most of the other captives. There is no dignity in it. You are huddled together in the bilge, the lowest part of the ship, a cramped, foul-smelling space where stagnant seawater filth and the vomit of the sick slosh back and forth with every movement of the hull. It's the ship's basement apartment, and the rent is your will to live. The Northmen are entirely unaffected. They move about the bucking deck with a sure-footed confidence that comes from a life spent on the waves. They seem to view your wretchedness with a mixture of contempt and amusement. To them, the sea is home. To you, it is a special kind of hell designed to systematically dismantle your body and spirit. After the first day, your hands are untied. It is not an act of kindness. It is a practical matter. They cannot have their new acquisitions dying of dehydration or being unable to feed themselves the meagre rations they are given. The rope leaves angry red welts on your wrists, a physical brand of your ownership. You are now free to move about the cramped central portion of the ship, a small invisible cage whose bars are made of fear and the endless empty ocean. Time loses all meaning. The passing of days is marked only by the shifting light. The cold grey dawn, the watery sun of midday, the purple and orange stain of sunset, and the terrifying inky blackness of the night. At night, the sea and sky merge into one. The only light comes from the stars, a cold, indifferent scatter of diamonds on black velvet. They are the same stars you looked at from your home, but they seem alien now, their patterns twisted and unfamiliar. You are adrift in a way that feels absolute. Your life shrinks to a series of basic, grim realities. The first is the cold. A deep, penetrating cold that the sea, spray and wind force into your bones. Your wet woolen clothes never fully dry, and you and the other women huddle together like sheep in a storm, sharing what little body heat you have. The second is thirst. You are given water twice a day, a few mouthfuls from a communal bucket. It is stale and tastes of the wood of the barrel, but it is the most precious thing in the world. The third is hunger. The food is a historical fact of Viking seafaring life, but one you could have done without discovering. You are given a piece of flatbread, a hard, dry bread that is like chewing on a wooden shingle, and occasionally a small piece of salted, dried fish, stockfish, so tough you have to gnaw on it for an hour. It is survival, not sustenance. The crew's routine is the only structure in this chaotic existence. When the wind is good, the great striped sail is unfurled and the ship flies across the waves. When the wind dies, the oars are run out and the men row. Their chanting, the same sound that chilled you to the bone during the raid, is now just a part of the ship's soundscape, a rhythmic grunt and pull that measures out the hours. It is the engine of your captivity. You watch them, these captors of yours. You learn their faces, their voices, their habits. There is the leader, the grey-bearded man whose name you hear the others say with respect, Bjorn. He is quiet, watchful, his eyes constantly scanning the waves and the sky. There is the giant with the red beard, Eric, who laughs too loud and whose temper seems to flash with no warning. There is a young boy, not much older than Thomas, from your village, who seems to be on his first raid. You see him sometimes looking at the captives with something that might be pity, before one of the older men cuffs him on the back of the head and points him towards a task. They speak their incomprehensible language and you begin to pick out a few words by repetition. Words for sail or water, wind. But their conversations are a closed book, their world impenetrable. They exist in a sphere of camaraderie that excludes you completely. They sharpen their weapons, mend the sail gamble with dice made of bone, and tell stories that end in loud bursts of laughter. They live their lives right in front of you, a few feet away, but they might as well be on the moon. Their indifference is a weapon in itself, constantly reminding you that you are not one of them. You are not even a person. You are cargo. You hear them complaining about how the ship rides low and slow with all the loot. One of them mentions a Nar, a wider, deeper ship built for cargo. It's a quirky, offhand comment that perfectly captures their perspective. You are just inconveniently shaped baggage that they wish was on a different boat. There is no sanitation to speak of. The question of how they manage this on long voyages is something historians and sagas offer conflicting accounts on, leading to a debate on whether Viking ships had any form of primitive toilet, or if sanitation was simply a matter of leaning over the side. You discover the answer is the latter, a final crushing humiliation in a journey composed entirely of them. Privacy is a forgotten luxury. Modesty is a concept that no longer applies. Slowly, a fragile bond forms between you and the other captives. You don't speak much. There is nothing to say, but you share your misery in silence. You help the older woman Elswith when she is too weak to stand. You hold the hand of the weeping girl Elfwin when her silent sobs shake her body at night. You all look out for Ida's little boy, making sure he gets his share of the water shielding him from the wind. You are a family forged in trauma, your ties woven from a shared, unspeakable loss. There are moments in the dead of night when you allow yourself to touch the small, hard shape of the bone bird still clutched in your hand or tucked safely in the fold of your dress. You close your eyes and feel its familiar contours. It's a dangerous indulgence. It brings a flood of memories. Sinric's shy smile, the smell of the herbs in your garden, the sound of your mother's voice. The memories are so sharp, so painful, they are a physical ache in your chest. They are a reminder of a life that is as lost to you now as a story from a book. But the little bird is also your only anchor. It is the one thing in this world that is still yours. It is a secret act of defiance, a whisper in the heart of the storm that says, I am still here. I remember who I was. One afternoon, the sea is unnaturally calm. The ship glides through water that is as smooth and grey as polished slate. The air is heavy, and the silence is broken only by the creak of the mast and the dripping of water from the oars. You sit watching the hypnotic swirling eddies left by the ship's wake, feeling a profound and terrifying despair settle over you. This journey feels endless. It feels like this is your entire life now, this grey ship, this grey sea, this grey sky. Hope is a muscle you haven't used in so long, you are afraid it has atrophied completely. Then you see it. Eric, the red-bearded giant who is standing watch at the prow, suddenly points. He shouts a single word. The word is taken up by the others, a ripple of excitement passing through the crew. The men stop what they are doing. The mood on the ship changes instantly. The lethargy of the long voyage is gone, replaced by a new energy, a new focus. You follow their gaze, your heart hammering in your chest. At first you see nothing but the endless horizon. But then you see it too. Not land, not yet. A bird, a gannet, its wings white against the grey sky. It is a seabird, yes, but it is a coastal bird. It is a sign. Bjorn, the leader, alters the ship's course slightly, his eyes fixed on the direction from which the bird came. A quiet, grim certainty settles over the crew. They are almost home. For you, the feeling is not relief. It is a fresh wave of ice-cold fear. This purgatory at sea, as miserable as it has been, is at least a known quantity. You have survived it. But it is ending. And you have no idea what fresh horror lies on the shore that is waiting for you, somewhere just over the curve of the world. The bird was a true prophet. The next dawn the cry goes up again from the prow, but this time it is not for a bird. It is for land. You struggle to your feet, your muscles stiff and sore, and join the others at the gunwale peering into the distance. It is a smudge on the horizon, at first a dark line that separates sea from sky. But as the hours pass and the ship draws closer, the smudge resolves itself into a coastline unlike anything you have ever seen. This is not the gentle rolling green of your home. This is a land of giants. Great sheer cliffs of dark grey rock rise straight from the sea, their peaks lost in a shroud of low-hanging mist. The coastline is shattered and broken a jagged edge, where the sea has clawed deep into the land, carving out immense water-filled valleys. These are the fjords you have heard sailors whisper of, passages that lead into the very heart of the country. The landscape feels primeval, ancient, and utterly indifferent to human life. It's the kind of dramatic scenery they'd use for the epic fantasy movie you've never seen. No rolling hills or quaint country lanes here. This is a place of stark, brutal beauty. The longship doesn't land on an open beach. Instead, Bjorn steers the vessel into the mouth of one of these great fjords. As you glide into the passage, the world changes. The roar of the open sea is replaced by a profound, echoing silence. The wind dies down, and the water becomes a sheet of dark green-black glass, perfectly reflecting the colossal cliffs on either side. The air grows still and cold. Waterfalls, thin as silver threads, cascade down the rock faces from impossible heights, their gentle splashing the only sound besides the rhythmic dip and pull of the oars. The scale of it all is overwhelming. You feel like an ant crawling through a crack in the world. The mood of your captors has changed. Their boisterous seagoing energy has been replaced by a quiet sense of homecoming. They point out landmarks to each other on the cliffs, their voices softer now, almost reverent. This is their home. This intimidating, magnificent, terrifying place is their sanctuary. The thought is deeply unsettling. What kind of people are forged by a land like this? After what feels like hours, navigating the winding fjord, you round a final bend and a settlement comes into view. It is nestled in a small green valley where the cliffs recede slightly, a tiny patch of civilization carved out of the immense wilderness. There is no welcome wagon, no cheering crowds, just a collection of long, low buildings with dark timber walls and roofs covered in living turf, making them look as if they are growing directly out of the earth. The heart of the settlement is one enormous longhouse, far larger than any building in your village. This, you will learn, is a common structure in the Viking world, a chieftain's hall, the center of all social, political, and economic life for the community. Smoke rises from a vent in its roof, a sign of the life within. Smaller buildings are clustered around it, storehouses, workshops, and smaller dwellings. A crude wooden dock juts out into the fjord where two other ships, one a sleek longship like your own and the other a broader, heavier-looking vessel, the Nar you heard them speak of, are moored. As your ship glides towards the dock, people begin to emerge from the longhouses. They are dressed like your captors in practical tunics of dark wool and leather. Women with their hair in long, thick braids, and children who stop their play to stare, their faces curious and unwelcoming. They are all tall and fair-haired, and for the first time you feel your own darker hair and smaller stature as a mark of foreignness. You are an alien here, a strange creature washed up on their shore. The ship is tied to the dock, and the work of unloading begins. The sacks of grain, the barrels of salted fish from your own village's stores, the pathetic collection of silver from your church, it is all passed from hand to hand and carried ashore. You and the other captives are the last of the cargo to be unloaded. You are shoved towards the gangplank, a single wide board connecting the ship to the dock. Your legs are unsteady after so long at sea, and you stumble. The man behind you gives you a rough push to hurry you along. Your feet touch solid ground for the first time in what feels like a lifetime. The earth feels strange, solid, and unmoving beneath you. You take your first steps in this new world and the sensory overload is immediate. The air smells different. It lacks the soft, damp scent of the pastures of your home. Here the air is sharper, cleaner, filled with the resinous tang of pine from the vast, dark forests that cling to the sides of the fjord, and the smell of wood smoke, but from a different kind of wood. There is also the unfamiliar scent of strange foods cooking something pungent and gamey. You are marched through the settlement. You walk on a path of hard-packed earth past people who stop and stare. Their faces are hard to read, but you see no pity, only a cold, calculating curiosity. You see a man working at a forge, the rhythmic clang of his hammer on hot iron echoing in the quiet air. You see a woman sitting in a doorway, weaving on a small portable loom, her fingers moving with mesmerizing speed. Their lives are going on completely undisturbed by your tragic arrival. You are a footnote in their day. Near the great longhouse, you see something that makes you stop in your tracks. It is a tall, upright stone, nearly twice your height. Its surface is covered in intricate, swirling carvings, patterns of knotwork and strange, angular letters coiling around the image of a great beast. It is a rune stone, a memorial. It is a piece of their history, a story carved in rock, but its meaning is utterly lost on you. It is beautiful and terrifying, a testament to a culture so ancient and complex that you cannot even begin to grasp it. It makes you feel impossibly small and young, your own people's history, a brief, fragile thing compared to this. The settlement feels both crowded and empty at the same time. While the central area is bustling with activity, you are acutely aware of the vast, silent wilderness that surrounds it on all sides. The dark, brooding forests and the towering, empty cliffs press in a constant reminder of the isolation of this place. Historians still debate how densely populated the Scandinavian homelands were, but from where you stand, it feels as if this small cluster of people is the only thing holding back an endless tide of raw, untamed nature. You and the other captives are brought to a halt before the great doors of the chieftain's longhouse. You are lined up, a miserable, salt-stained collection of human beings waiting for your fate to be decided. You look at the faces of the other women. You are all that is left of your home, a handful of familiar faces in a sea of strangers. You are the only comfort each other has, and it is a cold comfort indeed. Bjorn, the leader of your captors, disappears inside the longhouse. You are left standing outside under the watchful eyes of several warriors. The children of the settlement, their initial shyness overcome by curiosity, creep closer. They point at your clothes, your hair, whispering to each other in their alien tongue. They are not cruel, not yet. Just curious in the way children are curious about a strange new animal brought to the farm. You clutch the hidden bone bird in your hand. It is warm now from the heat of your skin. It feels impossibly fragile, a tiny piece of a shattered world. Here, surrounded by these giant cliffs, these strange people and their incomprehensible stone monuments, your simple life of fields and sea feels like a half-remembered dream. You are standing on new earth under a new sky, and every single thing you have ever known is gone. The journey across the sea is over, but your real journey, the journey into whatever this new life will be, is only just beginning. You do not remain outside the great longhouse for long. After a brief, guttural conversation with Bjorn, a broad-shouldered woman with a stern face and a large ring of iron keys at her belt emerges. She looks you and the other captives over with an air of profound irritation, as if you are a shipment of faulty goods she is now forced to deal with. Without a word, she gestures with her head, a sharp, commanding jerk, and you are led away. You are not taken into the longhouse. Instead, you are herded into a long, low outbuilding. The air inside is thick with the smell of unwashed bodies, stale straw, and despair. It is a holding pen. Other captives are already here, a sad, motley collection of humanity from other raids, their faces bearing the same stamp of shock and grief as your own. Their clothes are different, their features unfamiliar. They are strangers, yet you recognize them instantly. You are all members of the same unfortunate tribe. For a few days you exist in a state of limbo. You are fed a thin, tasteless gruel once a day and given water. It's a simple calculation: livestock is worth more if it's alive. One morning you are all marched out to the fjord and forced to wash in the brutally cold water. Your salt-stiffened clothes are taken, and you are given a simple, sleeveless tunic of coarse, undyed wool. It is rough against your skin, a uniform for the dispossessed. They are not cleaning you for your comfort. They are preparing you for market. The day of the market arrives without warning. You are roused before dawn, tied together once more in a chain, and marched away from the chieftain's settlement. The path follows the edge of the fjord, a narrow track that winds through the dark, silent pines. After an hour's walk, you begin to hear it, a low hum of activity, the sound of many voices, the bleating of sheep, and the clang of a blacksmith's hammer. You emerge from the forest into a scene of chaotic, vibrant commerce. This is a major trading post, larger and more bustling than the settlement you landed in. Tents and makeshift stalls have been set up in a wide, muddy field. Merchants are shouting their wares, their voices a cacophony in a dozen different languages. You see men who are clearly from distant lands, one with a dark-trimmed beard and flowing robes, another with skin as pale as your own, but dressed in rich, colourful silks. Historians still debate the primary destinations for the Viking slave trade, with some emphasizing the Islamic caliphates via Russian rivers and others focusing on the domestic needs of Scandinavian and colonial settlements. Looking at the international crowd here, you realize with a sickening lurch that you are a pawn in a global game, a tiny commodity in a vast network of trade and suffering that spans the known world. The market is an assault on the senses. The air is thick with the smells of roasting meat, pungent spices, wet fur, and the ever-present mud. Stalls are laden with goods, shimmering piles of amber beads, finely crafted swords and axes, rolls of dyed cloth and mountains of grey and white fur. It is a place of immense wealth and energy, and in a roped-off section at the far end of the field, it is a place of immense human misery. This is the slave market. It isn't hidden away in shame. It's just another part of the day's business, as normal as selling a side of beef or a barrel of ale. Slavery, you are learning, is not an aberration here. It is a cornerstone. The Viking economy of thraldom is on full display, and you are its newest product. You and your fellow captives are prodded into a wooden pen like sheep awaiting slaughter. A small crowd gathers, mostly men, their faces a mixture of idle curiosity and shrewd appraisal. Bjorn is there no longer your captor, but your salesman, his arm resting casually on the top rail of the pen as he chats with a potential customer. Then the process begins. One by one, you are taken from the pen and led to a small raised wooden platform. It's a stage, and your humiliation is the day's performance. Ida is first. You watch as a large, wealthy-looking man with rings on his fingers steps forward to inspect her. He grips her chin, turning her head from side to side. He forces her mouth open with his thumb and peers at her teeth, just as you have seen men do with horses. He runs his hands down her arms, pinching the muscle. He turns her around, looking at her back, her legs. Ida endures it all with a face of stone, her eyes fixed on some distant point, a place in her mind where this isn't happening. The man grunts, seemingly satisfied, and begins to haggle with Bjorn. You hear the distinctive clink of metal. Commerce here is often done with hack silver. Rather than a standardized currency, they use fragments of silver, chopped up bracelets, rings and foreign coins, which are weighed for each transaction. Bjorn pulls out a small portable set of bronze scales. The buyer drops bits of silver into one pan until it balances with the weights Bjorn has placed in the other. It's a quirky, strangely intimate way to conduct business. It's the sound of a human life being sold. Ida is led away by her new master, and she doesn't look back. There is no time for goodbyes. One by one, the women from your village are inspected and sold. Aelfwyn, the young girl who wept through the whole sea voyage, is bought by a stern-looking woman who seems to be the wife of a merchant. Ida's little boy is sold separated from his mother, his terrified cries ignored as he is dragged away by a rough-looking farmer. Your last links to your home, your last familiar faces are being snipped away one by one. You are watching your entire world dissolve. Then it is your turn. Your name is not called. A hand simply grabs your arm and hauls you out of the pen and onto the platform. The daylight feels harsh, the eyes of the crowd a physical weight. You feel your cheeks burn with shame, but you hold your head up, your face as blank as you can make it, just like Ida. You will not give them the satisfaction of your tears. A man steps forward. He is older than your father was. His face a roadmap of wrinkles carved by sun and sea. He is not dressed like a wealthy chieftain, but like a simple farmer or landowner. His clothes are clean but patched. He circles you slowly, his pale eyes missing nothing. He stops in front of you and without a word does as the others have done. He checks your teeth. Your jaw aches from the pressure of his thumb. He examines your hands, turning them over, feeling the calluses on your palms from a life of work. This seems to please him. He is not looking for a decorative object. He is looking for a worker. He runs a hand through your hair, then steps back, stroking his chin. He looks at you, not with malice, but with the same careful consideration he might give a new plough or a young ox. You are a tool, an investment. He turns to Bjorn and begins to speak in a low, rumbling voice. The haggling is brief. He seems to be a man who knows what he is willing to pay, and not a fragment more. The scales are brought out, the hack silver is weighed, the deal is done. Bjorn gives you a final indifferent glance, his part in your story now over. The old man takes the rope that is still loosely tied to your wrists. The transfer of property is complete. He gives the rope a gentle but firm tug, a silent command to follow. You take a step, and then another, following your new master away from the market, away from the pen, away from the last vestiges of your old life. You do not know his name. You do not know where you are going. You are walking into a complete and terrifying unknown. You clutch the little bone bird hidden in the fold of your tunic. It is no longer just a memento. It is your soul, the one part of you that has not been bought and sold. You follow the old man. Your world, which for days has been a chaotic swirl of crowds and new faces, suddenly becomes very small and quiet. It consists of the back of his woolen cloak, the hard-packed earth of the path beneath your feet, and the steady, silent rhythm of his walking. He does not speak to you. He does not look back. He simply leads, and you follow the rope connecting you, a leash that signifies your new reality. The journey takes hours. You leave the noise of the market far behind, plunging deeper into the rugged landscape of pine forests and rocky hills. The path is narrow and winds ever upward away from the fjord. The air grows thinner, cooler. You see no other travellers, no other signs of life save for a hawk circling high overhead. It is a lonely, intimidating land, and with every step you feel yourself moving further and further from everything you have ever known, as if you are walking off the edge of the map. Finally, the path crests a hill and opens into a wide, cleared valley. Below you lies a farmstead, larger and more established than you expected. A great longhouse, its turf roof thick and green, forms the heart of the settlement. Several smaller outbuildings, a smithy, a barn, a weaver's hut, are arranged neatly around it. Beyond the buildings, fields have been cleared and fenced, and you can see livestock grazing peacefully on a distant slope. A stream winds its way through the valley, a ribbon of silver in the afternoon sun. This is not the temporary plunder-filled hall of a raider chieftain. This is a place of permanence, of roots sunk deep into the earth. It is a self-contained kingdom, and the quiet old man leading you is its king. As you approach, life emerges to greet you. Two large wolf-like dogs bound out from the longhouse, barking furiously, but they fall silent and wag their tails at a sharp command from your master. People appear in the doorways of the workshops. A blacksmith, his face smudged with soot, pauses his work to watch you pass. A woman looks up from a churn, her expression unreadable. Their gazes are not hostile, just assessing. They are seeing the farm's newest acquisition, the latest piece of equipment. There is no formal HR department here, no welcome packet. Your onboarding is just a silent walk of shame past your new colleagues. The old man leads you to the main entrance of the great longhouse. The doors are huge, made of thick planks of dark wood and bound with iron hinges. Intricate carvings of coiling serpents and knots adorn the doorframe. He pushes one of the doors open and gestures for you to enter. You step across the threshold and into the gloom. The inside of the longhouse is a cavernous single room far larger than your home was. The air is warm and thick with the smells of wood smoke, roasted meat, stewed herbs, and the faint musky scent of many people living in close quarters. A long central hearth runs down the middle of the earthen floor, a bed of glowing coals providing the only significant light and warmth. The smoke rises to the high-beamed ceiling, finding its way out through a louvered vent in the roof. On either side of the central aisle, raised wooden platforms covered in furs and straw serve as benches for sitting and eating during the day and beds for sleeping at night. As your eyes adjust to the dim light, you begin to make out the inhabitants. Your master walks to the high seat, a sort of carved wooden throne at the center of one of the platforms, and sits down with the weary sigh of a man returning to his rightful place. A woman rises to greet him. She is as old as he is, her long grey hair in two thick braids that fall to her waist. She is tall and straight-backed, and she moves with an air of absolute authority. At her belt, a large ring of iron and bronze keys jingles with every step, the symbol of her power. This is the Husfreyja, the mistress of the house, and you know instinctively that while the old man may be the king, she is the one who truly runs this kingdom. Her eyes, the same pale assessing grey as her husband's, fall on you. There is no warmth in them. She looks you up and down, her gaze lingering for a moment on your face, your hands, your feet. It is the most thorough and dismissive inspection you have yet received. Other people occupy the longhouse, and you begin to understand the rigid social ladder you are now on. There are a few young men and women who you take to be the master's children. They sit near the high seat, their clothes well made, their manner confident. They are the freeborn heirs, the Kala. Further down the benches are other men and women, farmhands and retainers, their deference to the family clear in their posture. And then, moving in the shadows, fetching water, tending the fire and serving the others, are the thralls. There are perhaps half a dozen of them, their faces weary, their movements quick and silent. They do not make eye contact with the family. They are the bottom rung, and you have just been placed beneath them. Your master, your Bondi, murmurs something to his wife. She nods, then turns her full attention to you. She speaks, and for the first time, someone in this new world addresses you directly. The words are in that same harsh alien tongue, but her tone is universally understood. It is the tone of command. She points towards a broom made of bundled twigs that is leaning against the wall, then points to the earthen floor around the hearth. Your first assignment. You hesitate for only a second, then move to obey. Your hands, still raw from the ropes, feel clumsy on the rough handle of the broom. You begin to sweep. The floor is strewn with rushes, discarded food scraps, and animal hair from the dogs. It's a menial, endless task. You keep your eyes down, focusing on the small circle of floor in front of you. You can feel the eyes of the entire household on you, watching you, judging your obedience, your willingness. As you work, you listen. The family is talking, their voices a low murmur. You hear a young woman, perhaps the daughter, laugh at something her father says. It is a sound of simple domestic happiness, and it is a knife in your heart. A strange word is spoken, and you see the daughter shiver, a look of superstition on her face. The word is Filgia. It's a quirky, deeply ingrained belief. You will come to learn about the idea of a spiritual double that follows a person, often in the form of an animal, visible only in dreams or at moments of great importance. The girl speaks of a dream of a black wolf, and a hush falls over the family. In their world, the supernatural is woven into the everyday, and omens are as real as the fire in the hearth. You continue to sweep, moving further down the longhouse into the darker, less prestigious end where the thralls sleep. An older thrall, a man with a stooped back and empty eyes, watches you for a moment. He offers no words of welcome, no sign of solidarity. He simply watches you work, his expression, one of utter resignation. He has been here for a long time. He knows the rules. Your future, you realize with a crushing certainty, is right here in this longhouse. It is a future of sweeping floors, hauling water, tending fires, and sleeping on a straw pallet at the far end of this smoky, crowded room. It is a life of endless, thankless labor, of existing as a tool, a possession always under the watchful eye of the stern Husfreya and her jingling keys. The thought makes it hard to breathe. Historians still debate the degree of social mobility possible for a thrall in Viking society. Were there rare cases of slaves earning their freedom, of integrating into this society perhaps? But looking at the tired, empty faces of the other thralls, such a possibility seems like a cruel fantasy, a fairy tale told in a language you don't even speak. You finish sweeping the area around the hearth. You stand uncertain of what to do next. The Husfreya looks at you, then gestures towards a pile of furs that need to be cleaned and aired. The work does not end. It will never end. You pick up the heavy, smelly furs, your arms aching. As you turn to take them outside, you catch your reflection in a bucket of water. You see a stranger. A gaunt, hollow-eyed girl in a drab, shapeless tunic, her hair matted, her face smudged with dirt and tears. You barely recognize yourself. You carry the furs out into the cold, clean air of the valley. You are now the property of this household. You have a new master, a new mistress, and a new unassailable place at the bottom of a new world. The numbness that protected you is beginning to wear off, replaced by a cold, clear, and devastating understanding of what you have become. The days bleed into one another, each a perfect grey copy of the one before. Your life as a thrall is a rhythm, a metronome of endless, exhausting work that begins before the sun and ends long after it has set. There is no weekend, no holiday, no concept of a day off. This isn't a job, it is the total consumption of your life. It's the original unpaid internship, and the contract is for life. You wake in the dark. The great longhouse is a rumbling beast filled with the snores and snuffles of the sleeping family. But here at the far end of the hall, in the section reserved for thralls, the waking comes early. A rough shake of the shoulder from an older thrall named Kara is your alarm clock. You don't know if Kara is her real name or one given to her by her masters. She is a woman of indeterminate age, with a face that looks like it has been carved from driftwood, and she has never spoken a single word to you. Her job is to make sure the other thralls are awake and working as sort of low-level supervisor in the hierarchy of the enslaved. The air is frigid. You pull the coarse wool tunic over your head, the same garment you wear every day. You sleep in it, work in it, live in it. It smells of sweat wood smoke and the barn. Privacy is a concept as foreign as the moon. You sleep on a straw pallet a few feet from a man who smells like sour milk and a girl who weeps in her sleep. These are your people now, a silent, weary fraternity of the damned. Your first task is always the fire. The central hearth has burned down to a bed of glowing embers, and it is your job to coax it back to life. You feed it dried moss and kindling, blowing gently on the embers until a small flame catches. It's a delicate, crucial task. The warmth and light from this fire are the lifeblood of the household. As the flames grow, you begin to see the great sleeping hall around you, its inhabitants still wrapped in their furs. For a few precious moments, you are the only one truly awake, a silent ghost tending the heart of your prison. Then the real work begins. You and the other female thralls fetch the water, your wooden buckets heavy and sloshing. The walk to the stream is a trial in the pre-dawn chill. The water is so cold it makes your fingers ache, a clean, sharp pain that wakes you up completely. You haul the buckets back to the longhouse, your shoulders and back already beginning to protest. This water is for the family's morning washing, for the day's cooking, for the endless cleaning. While the family eats their breakfast, thick oat gruel sweetened with a precious dollop of honey and slices of smoked meat, you are sent to the barn. The smell of livestock is a familiar comfort, a ghost of your old life. But the work is back-breaking. You muck out the stalls, the dung heavy and wet in the pitchfork. You milk the cows, their placid warmth, a small comfort against the cold morning. Your hands, once soft, are now permanently chapped and calloused. You are an expert in the geography of blisters. Your day is dictated by the needs of the farmstead and the whims of the Husfreyja. Her name is Astrid, and she rules the domestic sphere with an iron will. Her keys are a constant jingling reminder of her authority. She does not shout or rage. Her commands are given in a low, flat voice that allows for no argument, no hesitation. She is a terrifyingly effective middle manager. A single look of disapproval from her can make your blood run cold. One of your most dreaded tasks is grinding grain. The farm has a large rotary quern stone in a small shed. It takes 2 people to turn the heavy stone, and you are often paired with the weeping girl, whose name you have learned is Inga. You both push the wooden handle, walking in a slow, hypnotic circle, your bodies straining with the effort. The grinding of the stones is a sound you remember from your own village, a sound you once associated with the comfort of baking bread. Now it is the sound of your own life being ground down day after day. It's a painful callback, a piece of your past repurposed as an instrument of your present misery. The legal reality of your situation is a cold, hard fact that underpins everything. As a thrall, you are not a person under the law. You are property chattel. Your bondy, the old man whose name is Kettle, could sell you, beat you, or even kill you with no legal consequence. Your children, should you have any, would be born thralls, his property from birth. This knowledge is a constant low hum of terror beneath the surface of your daily exhaustion. The other thralls are not your friends. They are your colleagues in a job no one wants. You are all competitors for the least unpleasant task, for a slightly larger share of the evening's leftovers, for the quiet mercy of being ignored by the masters. An unspoken tension exists between you. A mistake made by one of you can bring punishment on you all, so you work heads down, speaking only when necessary. You learn from them through observation how to card and spin wool until your fingers are raw, how to smoke fish without ruining the batch, how to find the specific herbs Astrid wants for her stews. In the long, dark evenings while the family gathers around the hearth, you are still working. You serve them their food, your own stomach aching with hunger at the rich smell of roasted meat and gravy. After they have eaten their fill, you are allowed your portion. Historians and archaeologists still debate the specific diet of thralls, but it was universally poor, likely consisting of whatever was left over. For you, this means the dregs of the stew pot, the burnt bits of bread, the soured milk. You eat it quickly, silently, grateful for even this. Sometimes in the evening, a guest will arrive, and Ketil will call for a skald, a poet. While you work in the shadows mending clothes or cleaning pots, a man will stand by the firelight and recite the great stories of this land. You overhear tales of gods like Odin and Thor, of heroic warriors and cunning dragons. It's a quirky, almost charming glimpse into their culture to see these hardened people captivated by a good story. But the tales are not for you. You are just part of the scenery for their entertainment, an invisible servant in the background of their heroic sagas. At the end of the day, a bone-deep exhaustion settles over you, a weariness that goes beyond the physical. It is an exhaustion of the soul. You crawl onto your straw pallet, your body a symphony of aches. The longhouse is quiet again, the fire burning low. This is the only time that is truly yours. In the darkness, you allow yourself a small, secret ritual. You reach into the hidden fold of your tunic and take out the little bone bird. You hold it in your palm, its smooth, cool surface, a comfort against your rough skin. You don't dare look at it for long for fear of being seen. But just holding it is enough. It is a tangible link to the girl you used to be. The girl who had a name, a family, a future. The girl who received this gift from a boy with a shy smile. It is a rebellion of memory, a declaration that you are more than just a pair of hands. You hide the bird away again and close your eyes. You do not pray. The God of your homeland seems very far away, and you cannot imagine he can hear you here. You simply let the darkness take you, surrendering to a few hours of dreamless oblivion. It is the only escape you have. And you know with a grim certainty that tomorrow will be exactly the same. The first few weeks on the farmstead are a bewildering fog of incomprehensible noise. The language of your captors is a physical barrier, a wall of harsh consonants and rolling vowels that separates you from understanding, from safety, from any semblance of control. You live your life in a state of constant anxious guesswork. Commands are understood not by their words, but by the angry tone, the sharp gesture of a hand, the impatient shove in the right direction. It is the most stressful language immersion program ever devised, and failure is not an option. Your world is stripped of nouns. A bucket is not a bucket. It is that thing she is pointing at. The quernstone is the heavy thing you have to push. Your own name is gone, replaced by a grunt or a sharp, meaningless syllable they use to get your attention. You are a ghost in their house, and their language is the spell that renders you invisible, deaf and dumb. But the human brain is a remarkable stubborn thing, a machine built for survival and connection. And slowly, painfully, it begins to learn. It starts with the basics, the words you hear 100 times a day. Vatten, water. You learn it from the endless trips to the stream. Broad, bread. You learn it from the scent of baking and the coarse loaf you are handed for your meal. Elder, fire. You learn it from the hearth that is the center of this world. These are your first building blocks, the foundation of a new reality built from the rubble of the old. The process is one of pure, brutal repetition. Astrid the Husfreyja is your unwilling and terrifyingly strict teacher. She does not instruct. She demands. Fetch the Nifa. She'll snap, and when you stand there confused, she'll point impatiently at the knife on the table. The next time she says Nifa, you know. You learn the word for wool-ull as you spend countless hours carding it. You learn the word for pot-potter as you scrub it clean, with sand and cold water. Your vocabulary grows one household object at a time. It's a curriculum based entirely on chores. What makes the process both easier and stranger is a mainstream historical fact that you experience on a visceral level. Your language, Old English, and theirs, Old Norse, are cousins. They are branches of the same Germanic family tree. So sometimes a word will sound eerily familiar, a distorted echo of a word you already know. Their word for ship is skiphouse is whose, and man is marder. It's like listening to your own language in a dream, twisted and slightly off-key. This linguistic kinship doesn't feel like a helpful bridge. It feels like a cruel mockery, a reminder that these people who destroyed your world are not so different from you after all. As the seasons begin to turn and your vocabulary expands from single words to simple phrases, you begin to grasp the second, much harder lesson: the customs. Language is more than words. It is a window into a culture's soul. And the soul you begin to see is a complex and frightening one. You learn that please and thank you are not words used with thralls. You learn that direct eye contact with the family is a mistake. You learn to make yourself small, to move silently through the longhouse, to anticipate needs before they are voiced. Surviving here is like learning the rules to a board game where the instructions are in a language you don't speak, and every wrong move gets you eliminated. You start to understand the conversations swirling around you, the overheard gossip, the arguments, the jokes. One evening, a heated dispute breaks out between Ketil's eldest son and a visiting cousin. The argument is over a borrowed horse that was returned lame. It seems like a small thing, but their voices are filled with a cold fury. And then you hear the word spat like a curse nid. The visitor accuses the son of being a man of nid. A profound, deathly silence falls over the longhouse. You do not know the word's literal translation, but you feel its weight. It is a word that strikes deeper than any sword. You've stumbled upon a quirky but vital piece of their moral code. An accusation of dishonor, of being a social villain, is the gravest insult imaginable, a stain that can lead to bloodshed. This obsession with honor and reputation seems to be the organizing principle of their lives. It dictates how they treat guests, how they arrange marriages, how they pursue feuds. It is a code that does not apply to you. You as a thrall have no honor to defend. You exist outside of their moral universe, which is a terrifying and strangely liberating realization. You also begin to understand the stories told by the skald in the evenings. The tales of gods and heroes are no longer just a lyrical jumble of sounds. You start to recognize names: Odin the All-Father, who wanders the world in disguise, Thor with his mighty hammer, Loki the trickster. You hear sagas of great sea voyages and epic battles. You learn that their gods are not benevolent caretakers, but flawed, powerful, and often cruel beings, just like the people who worship them. Their religion is not one of gentle prayer, but of fate or weird, a concept that feels deeply familiar. The belief that one's path is already laid out is a cold comfort, but it helps to make sense of the senseless tragedy that has befallen you. Historians and linguists still debate how literacy was valued outside of the elite rune carvers and poets. What you see confirms that the spoken word holds all the power here. Oaths are sworn on an iron ring, and the memory of a promise is a greater bond than any written contract. Runes are carved on tools and memorial stones, but they seem more like magic, like symbols of power, than a means of everyday communication. Reputation is built on words and deeds, not on written records. The more you understand, the more isolated you feel. Language has opened a door, but it is a door into a room where you will never be welcome. You understand their jokes now, but you can never laugh. You understand their sorrows, but you can never offer comfort. You understand their anger, but you can never defend yourself. You have learned their language, but you have no voice. One night you are banking the fire after the family has gone to sleep. Kettle and Astrid are speaking in low tones, believing you to be just a deaf and dumb part of the furniture. But you are not. You are listening. They are talking about their daughter and a marriage proposal from a neighbouring chieftain. They speak of the bride price of the political alliance it would create, of the honour it would bring to their family. You stand there, a silent witness to the architecture of their lives, and you understand every single word. It is a moment of quiet, devastating triumph. You have cracked their code. You have a tool for survival. But as you retreat to your straw pallet in the darkness, the victory feels hollow. You pull out the little bone bird. You whisper your own name to it in your own language. The sounds feel strange and foreign on your tongue, now a relic from a forgotten world. You have learned the language of power, but the price has been the slow, quiet erosion of your own. The change, when it comes, is not violent or dramatic. It is quiet, mundane, and all the more terrifying for it. It happens on an ordinary evening, just like any other. The family has finished their meal. The scold has not come, so the longhouse is filled with the low murmur of conversation and the crackle of the hearth. You are on your knees, scouring a blackened pot with a handful of sand, your world reduced to this single repetitive task. Kettle, your master, has been watching you. You have felt his gaze before, but have always dismissed it, telling yourself it is the simple proprietary watchfulness of a man surveying his property. Tonight, it is different. It is focused. When he rises from his high seat and walks towards your end of the hall, a sudden cold silence falls over the longhouse. Every thrall freezes. Every member of the family stops speaking. You can feel a dozen pairs of eyes on your back. He stops beside you. You keep your own eyes fixed on the pot, your heart a frantic hammer against your ribs. He says your name, the Norse name they have given you, a name you still hate, and the word hangs in the air. Then he simply gestures with his head towards the partitioned-off section of the longhouse where he and Astrid have their bed. It is not a request. It is a summons, a transfer of an asset from one part of the house to another. You rise your legs unsteady. You do not look at anyone, but you can feel the stare of the husfreyja Astrid. It is not a look of hot, jealous anger. It is something far colder, far heavier. It is the look of a woman whose authority has been publicly undermined, whose domain has been invaded. In that moment, you have not gained a protector. You have made a powerful and permanent enemy. You follow him into the shadows. The next morning you wake up alone on a pile of furs behind a curtain, not on your straw pallet with the other thralls. The thin wool of the curtain provides a sliver of privacy, a luxury you haven't known since you were captured. But it is not a sanctuary. It is a cage. Your body aches, but the deepest ache is a cold, hollow feeling in the center of your chest. You have survived the night, but you have lost something profound, another piece of the girl you once were. When you emerge, the longhouse is already awake, and everything is different. The other thralls, Kara and Inga, and the others will not meet your eyes. They scuttle away from you, their silence, a wall of judgment and fear. To them, you have crossed a line. You are no longer one of them. You have been chosen, set apart. They don't see this as the violation it is. They see it as a promotion. Congratulations, you've been promoted from general labor to highly specialized, emotionally fraught asset. The fragile solidarity of shared misery is gone, replaced by a new, bitter kind of isolation. Astrid is standing by the hearth, her back to you. She does not turn, but you feel her awareness of you as a physical force. She gives a crisp order to Inga to fetch the water, a task that has been yours for months. You stand uncertain, a ghost in a new role with no job description. The historical reality of your new position is that of the frilla, the concubine. It was a recognized status in this society. You are not a wife. You have no legal standing, no rights to the property, no say in the running of the household. But you are no longer just a field hand. Your children, if you were to have them, would be illegitimate, unable to inherit if legitimate heirs existed. Yet they would be Ketil's blood. It is a position of immense ambiguity, a step up from the bottom rung that places you on a much more precarious and unstable ledge. Ketil appears and gestures for you to sit on a bench closer to the fire. He pushes a wooden bowl of the family's superior gruel towards you, the kind with honey in it. It is a public declaration of your new status. You eat your throat tight every spoonful, feeling like a betrayal of the girl who was horrified by the very idea of this. But you eat because you are a survivor. And this is the price of a warmer bed and a better meal. The days that follow are a masterclass in navigating a hostile social environment. The physical labor lessens. You are no longer sent to muck out the barn or grind the quern. Instead, you are given indoor tasks under the constant, silent supervision of Astrid. You mend Ketil's clothes, you comb his hair, you serve his mead. You are his personal attendant, a role that keeps you perpetually in his orbit and perpetually under the icy glare of his wife. Astrid's hostility is a quiet, simmering thing. Her power in the household, you realize, is immense, and it's not just domestic. There's a quirky, almost supernatural edge to her authority, a hint of the ancient power of the vulva, the Norse seeress. She is the keeper of the family's traditions, the one who knows the old stories and the meanings of dreams. Her disapproval feels less like anger and more like a slowly woven curse. She never speaks a harsh word to you. She simply looks through you, her silence a more potent weapon than any shout. The social politics of the Longhouse make for a more stressful reality show than any you could ever imagine. Your relationship with Ketil is not a relationship at all. It is a function. He speaks to you occasionally, asking simple questions about your old home, his curiosity that of a collector examining a strange new artifact. He is not cruel in the way a man like Eric the Raider was. He does not beat you, but his ownership of you is so absolute, so ingrained in his worldview, that the concept of your consent is utterly irrelevant. You are a comfort, a convenience, a status symbol. Historians still debate the emotional reality of these arrangements, questioning whether a thrall concubine could ever exercise genuine influence, or if it was merely a survival strategy within a system of total subjugation. You ponder this question in the long, quiet hours. Do you have influence? Perhaps. A word whispered in his ear at the right moment might save another thrall from a beating. A carefully crafted compliment might earn you a newer tunic. But this is not power. It is the cunning of the caged learning which bars to press to get a scrap of food. It is a strategy, nothing more. You are more alone than ever. The thralls fear you, the family resents you, and Astrid hates you with a cold, patient fire. You have no one to talk to, no one to confide in. Your only solace remains the small secret bird carved from bone. At night, in the relative privacy of your new sleeping corner, you hold it and let the memories it contains wash over you. It is a reminder that you were once a person whose body and affections were her own to give. It is a dangerous memory, but it is the only thing that keeps you from becoming the object they believe you to be. You are playing a part, the part of the compliant friller, and this small bird is the only proof that the actress is not the role. Your new role as a thriller grants you one strange and unintended privilege, the gift of observation. No longer exhausted by the dawn-to-dusk physical toil of the fields and barn, you now spend your days within the longhouse, a silent shadow in the corner of a world you are not truly part of. And from this vantage point, you begin to study the power dynamics of the household, particularly the power of the free women. Your primary subject, of course, is Astrid. You watch her, and you learn. You learn that to dismiss Astrid as a simple wife would be a profound and dangerous miscalculation. She is not a wife, she is a queen. The longhouse and the entire farmstead are her domain, and she rules it with an efficiency that is both terrifying and deeply impressive. If Ketil is the head of state, the one who deals with outside threats and alliances, Astrid is the head of government, the one who manages the entire domestic economy. She's the CEO of a very rustic, very cold, and entirely self-sufficient startup. Her day starts with the keys. That heavy iron ring is the first thing she picks up in the morning and the last thing she sets down at night. They are her badge of office, and they are not merely symbolic. Those keys unlock the stabber, the raised storehouse where the farm's wealth is kept. This is the heart of her power. Inside that locked building are the barrels of salted meat and fish, the sacks of grain, the wheels of cheese, the tubs of butter. It is the food that will keep the entire household, family retainers and thralls alive through the long, dark, brutal winter. Astrid alone decides how this wealth is allocated. She measures out the daily rations, her sharp eyes calculating the needs of the many against the finite resources she controls. Her judgment is the only thing that stands between this entire community and starvation. You watch her oversee the textile production, a major source of the farm's wealth. Wool from their sheep is carded, spun, dyed and woven into cloth right here on the steading. This cloth, known as vadmal, is so important it's a form of currency used for trade and taxes. Astrid directs every stage of this process, her expert hands checking the quality of the yarn, her keen eye judging the evenness of the weave. The rhythmic thump-thump of the looms in the weaving hut is the sound of her generating capital. Her authority is absolute. She directs not only the thralls, but the freeborn servant girls and even her own daughters. Her word is law. A poorly executed task, a moment of laziness, is met with a quiet cutting remark that is more effective than any shouting. You begin to understand that the power of women in this world, at least women of Astrid's class, is not a myth. It is a real, tangible and formidable force. Historians still debate the extent to which the powerful shield maiden figure from the sagas reflects the reality for ordinary Viking women. But as you watch Astrid, you see that a shield and an axe are not the only weapons a woman can wield. Her keys, her loom, and her encyclopedic knowledge of every resource on this farm are her arsenal, and she is a master strategist. This power, you learn, is backed by law and custom. One evening you overhear Astrid talking with her daughter, who is recently married to a man from a neighboring farm. The daughter is complaining about her husband's laziness. Astrid listens, her face impassive, and then says something that makes you freeze. She tells her daughter that if he does not mend his ways, she should declare herself divorced. The casual way she says it is shocking. You later piece together the details from overheard gossip. A woman here can, under certain conditions, legally divorce her husband. There's even a quirky custom known as divorce on the doorstep, where a wife could end her marriage by simply stating her reasons and summoning witnesses at the threshold of her own home. She would then be entitled to the return of her dowry and her personal property. It's a display of female agency so profound, so utterly alien to your own complete lack of rights, that you can barely comprehend it. And this is the chasm that separates you. It is not just the difference between a warm bed and a straw pallet. It is the difference between being a person and being a possession. Astrid and her daughters are part of a social contract. They have rights, protections, and recourse. They can own property. They can inherit. They have a voice even within a patriarchal society. You have none of these things. You are an object. The gulf between the Husfreya and the Frilla is not a gap. It is a canyon. You will never be invited to the Viking Wives Book Club because in their eyes you aren't a wife or even a woman. You're a feature of the house like a chair Ketil happens to be fond of. You observe Astrid with her family. With Ketil, she is a partner. He clearly respects her judgment, consulting her on matters of the farm. He is the only person who she seems to view as an equal. With her children, she is stern but fiercely protective. You see her teaching her youngest granddaughter how to spin wool. Her usually harsh face softened with a rare look of tenderness. In these moments she is not just the cold, intimidating mistress of the house. She is a woman, a mother, a grandmother. It is a confusing, complicating glimpse of the person beneath the formidable role she plays. It doesn't make you like her, but it makes her more real and her silent hostility towards you more understandable. You are not just a servant. You are a threat, a daily living insult to her position as the sole matriarch of this hall. Your existences are now intertwined in a strange, silent war. You are both bound to the same man, but by vastly different chains. Her chain is one of marriage, of law, of honor and duty, a chain that also grants her immense power. Your chain is one of ownership, of subjugation, of pure survival, a chain that gives you nothing but a precarious, borrowed existence. You watch her move through her world with confidence and purpose, the keys at her hip, a song of power, and you feel the weight of your own powerlessness more acutely than ever. The seasons turn. The brutal, endless winter gives way to a muddy, tentative spring, and then to a summer of long, luminous nights. Your life has settled into a strange, precarious rhythm. You are the master's shadow, a permanent fixture in the longhouse, an object of Astrid's silent, simmering rage. You have learned the language, you understand the customs, you know the rules of your gilded cage. And then a new complication arises, one that will shatter the fragile stability you have found. It begins as a subtle change in your body, a deep weariness that sleep cannot cure, a strange sickness in the mornings. You try to ignore it, to push through it. But soon the truth becomes undeniable. You are pregnant. The realization is not a moment of joy. It is a tidal wave of pure, cold terror. A child. A child conceived in subjugation. A child who will be born into the same bondage that holds you. This is not the future you dreamed of with Cynric, a future of a home filled with love and laughter. This is a continuation of a nightmare. There's no maternity leave policy for thralls, no excited preparations. Your body is no longer your own in a new and terrifying way. It is now a factory producing a new piece of property for your master. You try to hide it for as long as you can, cinching your belt tighter, moving more carefully. But in the close, watchful confines of the longhouse, no secret can be kept for long. It is Astrid who notices first. Of course it is. Her sharp eyes miss nothing. She doesn't confront you. She simply gives you a long, venomous look, her lips pressed into a thin white line. It is a look of utter contempt. This child, your child, is a physical manifestation of her husband's betrayal, a walking, breathing insult to her authority and her bloodline. When your condition becomes obvious, the dynamics of the household shift once more. Ketil seems pleased. He says nothing to you directly, but you see a flicker of pride in his eyes. He is an old man. This is proof of his continued virility. He orders that you be given a larger portion of meat at meals and be excused from the heaviest lifting. These are not acts of kindness or concern for your well-being. They are the practical measures of a farmer protecting his prize livestock while it is gestating. The other thralls watch you with a mixture of pity and resentment. Your pregnancy sets you even further apart, a visible symbol of your ambiguous and to them privileged status. The baby shower consists of a few extra scraps of food and a lot of resentful stares. You are utterly alone in this. The months pass in a slow, anxious haze. Your belly grows, and with it a fierce, primal protective instinct you did not expect. You start to think of the life inside you not as a symbol of your bondage, but as a person. Your child. A tiny, innocent being caught in this brutal world. And a new, more specific terror begins to haunt your nights. You learn of it from a quiet conversation between the other thrall women. The custom of Utbörder, infant exposure. In this pre-Christian world, a newborn baby is not automatically considered a member of the family. The father holds the power of life and death. After the birth, the child is placed at his feet. If he picks the child up, places it on his knee and gives it a name, it is accepted. It lives. If he turns away, the child is deemed unwanted and can be legally left in the wilderness to die. This horrifying practice is the ultimate expression of patriarchal power. The fate of your child will not be decided by you, its mother, but by a brief, silent gesture from your owner. The day you go into labor, you are moved to a small, isolated hut used for birthing. Astrid does not come near you. It is Kara, the silent, driftwood-faced thrall, and another older woman who attend you. Their hands are rough but surprisingly gentle. The birth is a long primal ordeal of pain and fear, but when it is over, you are holding a child in your arms. A son. He is perfect. He has your dark hair, but his eyes, when they open, are the same pale, assessing grey as his father's. A wave of love so fierce it takes your breath away washes over you. In this small, screaming, helpless creature you have found a new reason to endure. You will survive for him. But your joy is fragile, fleeting. A few hours later, Ketil comes. The old women wrap the baby in a clean linen cloth, and as is the custom, place him on the floor at his father's feet. Your heart stops. The entire world shrinks to this one small, silent hut. Your son's life hangs in the balance, dependent on the whim of this old man. You watch his face, trying to read his expression, but it is as impassive as a stone carving. He looks down at the baby. Then he looks at you. The silence stretches for an eternity. Then he bends down. Slowly, with the stiffness of his age, he picks up the child. He cradles him for a moment, then settles him on his knee. His name is Magnus, he says, his voice a low rumble. He has the look of my father. You let out a breath you didn't realize you were holding, a ragged, shuddering sob of pure relief. He has been accepted. He will live. But the question of what kind of life he will live remains. The grim historical fact of Norse law is clear. A child inherits the status of the mother. Your son Magnus, despite having the chieftain's blood in his veins, has been born a thrall. He is Ketil's son, but he is also Ketil's property. Historians still debate how often a chieftain might formally acknowledge a child by a concubine, and what, if any, limited rights that acknowledgement conferred. Perhaps Magnus will be treated better than the other thralls. Perhaps he will be trained for a skilled position on the farm. But he will never be an heir. He will never be truly free. You are allowed to keep him with you, to nurse him in your small curtained-off corner of the longhouse. He is a source of profound, aching love, but also a constant living reminder of your situation. He is a child of two worlds belonging to neither. He is your son, and he is your master's slave. Late at night, when he is asleep in your arms, you whisper stories to him in your own language, the language of your lost home, and you show him the little bone bird, letting his tiny fingers curl around it. It is the only inheritance you can give him, a secret history, a whispered identity, a connection to a world where his mother at least was free. The birth of your son changes everything. Before Magnus, your existence was about pure survival, a day-to-day battle against despair. But now you have something to survive for. This tiny, vulnerable life, half captor and half captive, becomes the anchor of your sanity. His existence requires a fundamental shift in your strategy. You can no longer afford the luxury of simple passive endurance. You must learn to adapt, to resist, to fight a war that no one else can see. Overt rebellion is a fool's dream. You have heard the stories whispered among the thralls about runaways. The historical term for this crime is Weglaufer, and the punishment is absolute. A recaptured thrall can be maimed, branded, or killed outright as an example to the others. The vast, unforgiving wilderness that surrounds the farmstead is as much a prison wall as any stockade, so you do not dream of running. You learn to fight from within. Your resistance is a quiet, secret art form, a masterpiece of passive aggression and petty defiance. It is a series of tiny rebellions that are invisible to your captors but keep a pilot light of your true self flickering in the darkness. When Astrid commands you to make a stew, you forget to add the small handful of wild garlic that you know is her favorite. It's a bland, unsatisfying meal for her and a tiny, triumphant victory for you. When you are at the loom, weaving the endless bolts of Vadmal, you learn to work a secret signature into the pattern. It is a tiny, geometric shape from the embroidered cloths of your homeland, a symbol no one here would ever recognize, so small it is almost invisible. But you know it's there, a piece of your home, your culture woven directly into the fabric of your master's wealth. You develop a kind of double consciousness, a necessary compartmentalization of your mind. There is the outer you, the quiet, obedient friller, the nameless thrall who bows her head and does as she is told. She is a convincing actress. But the inner you is a fortress. Inside the walls of your own mind, you are free. You are a meticulous observer, an anthropologist studying a strange and dangerous tribe. You have a PhD-level understanding of this household's politics now. You know that Ketil's eldest son resents his father's new favorite. You know that Astrid and her daughter-in-law are locked in a silent power struggle. You collect these pieces of information, these social vulnerabilities, not with any specific plan, but because knowledge in your world is the only currency you possess. It is a form of power, this secret understanding of the system that imprisons you. This is the very essence of what historians and sociologists still debate as the nature of slave agency, the capacity of enslaved individuals to make choices and affect their own lives, even within a system designed to strip them of all autonomy. You are living this debate. You cannot choose to be free, but you can choose to remember. You can choose to hate. You can choose to subtly undermine the order of this house in ways that are felt but never proven. You even begin to engage in a quirky private form of rebellion borrowed from your captors themselves. You've listened to their poetry, their use of kennings, the metaphorical phrases like whale road for the sea. You start to create your own. It is a secret language, a way of reframing your world to give yourself a sliver of control. In your mind, Astrid is no longer Astrid. She is the key jangler, the hearth guardian. Ketil is the ring giver, the man buyer. The longhouse is the smoke hall, and Magnus, your son, is your heart anchor. It is a small, poetic game, but it allows you to mentally separate the people from the roles they play in your subjugation. It keeps them at a distance. Your relationship with Magnus is the heart of your secret world. You are his mother, his protector, his only link to another life. You speak to him constantly when you are alone, and you speak in your own language. You fill his ears with the soft sounds of your lost home. You sing him the lullabies your own mother sang to you. It is a dangerous, defiant act of cultural preservation. You are planting a seed of another world inside him, a world that exists beyond the confines of this valley and the hard reality of his birthright. The bone bird, once your only comfort, is now his. You let him hold it, his small, chubby fingers tracing the lines of its wings. It is his only heirloom, the only physical piece of his maternal heritage. You are giving him a history, a past that is not written on runestones or recited in sagas, but whispered in the dark and held in the palm of his hand. You adapt not just to survive, but to create spaces of peace. You learn to cherish the brief moments of solitude. When you are sent to the stream to fetch water, you take a few extra moments. You watch the way the light filters through the pine trees. You listen to the chatter of the birds. You feel the cold, clean water on your hands. You focus on your senses, on the physical world outside of the smoky, oppressive longhouse. These moments are a form of meditation, a way of resetting your mind, of reminding yourself that there is a world beyond your bondage, even if you can never reach it. One evening, you are serving Ketil and a guest. They are discussing a raid that Ketil's son has just returned from. They speak of plunder, of the burning of a monastery, of captives taken. They speak of it with the casual, detached air of farmers discussing a harvest, and you stand there pouring their mead, your face a perfect mask of obedient indifference. But inside your fortress you are listening. You are committing every detail to memory. You are honoring the dead. You are bearing witness. This is your most profound act of resistance to remember in a place designed to make you forget you were ever a person at all. Years pass. The relentless rhythm of the seasons on Ketil's farmstead becomes the rhythm of your life. Magnus grows from a baby into a boy, a whirlwind of energy with his father's grey eyes and your dark hair. He is your reason, your shield, your secret joy. He is a thrall-born boy, yes, but he is also the chieftain's son, and this ambiguous status grants him a strange, protected place in the household. He is your heart anchor, and for him you endure. Then the world shifts again. The decision comes down from Ketil, delivered to the household one evening by the hearth. We are leaving. We are going to the lands across the sea to England. He speaks of fertile soil, of a new life, of a great army of his people who have carved out a kingdom for themselves there. He is not going as a raider, but as a settler, a landowner taking his entire household to claim a piece of this new territory. The moving process, it turns out, is a nightmare even in the 9th century, and packing an entire life's worth of belongings, livestock and people onto a few ships is even worse than loading a U-Haul. For the family, it is an adventure, a grand opportunity. For you, it is a dizzying, terrifying prospect. You are going home, but you are not going home free. The second sea voyage is nothing like the first. You travel not on a sleek, predatory longship, but on a broad-bellied nar, a cargo ship designed for long journeys and heavy loads. It is still a miserable, cramped and terrifying experience. The ship groans under the weight of sea chests, barrels of seed-grain tools and bewildered livestock. But this time you are not bound and terrified cargo in the bilge. You are a recognized, if lowly, member of the household, and you have Magnus. You spend the journey shielding him from the worst of the wind and the spray, telling him stories to distract him from the violent motion of the waves. He is fearless, his eyes wide with the wonder of the vast open sea. Seeing the journey through his eyes strips away some of its terror, replacing it with a weary sense of maternal duty. You are no longer just a victim of the whale road. You are a mother, and your child's needs eclipse your own fear. After a journey that feels like a lifetime, you sight land. And the sight of it is a physical blow. It is not the stark, magnificent coast of Norway. It is a gentle, green, familiar shoreline. It is the coast of England, your home. Tears stream down your face, hot and silent. Magnus, now a boy of 5, tugs on your sleeve and asks you why you are crying. You cannot explain to him that these are the shores of a kingdom you have built in your memory, a home you can see and smell but can never ever return to. You are entering the Danelaw. This is the historical reality that has reshaped your world. In the years you have been gone, the sporadic raids of your youth have evolved into a full-scale invasion and settlement. A great Viking army has conquered this part of England, and now their people are flooding in to farm the land. They are no longer just visitors, they are the new masters. You sail up a wide, slow-moving river, past fields and small villages that look achingly familiar. But there are differences. You see the black, timbered shapes of Norse longhouses being built next to the smaller, humbler dwellings of the local English. You see Norse warriors armed and confident patrolling the riverbank. This is an occupied land. Ketil's new steading is a piece of land granted to him by a powerful Viking jarl. The previous Anglo-Saxon owners are gone. No one speaks of them. The farm is there, the fields are there, but the people have been erased. Your new home is a ghost of an English life. The moment your feet touch English soil is one of profound and painful irony. You have come home a slave in your own country. The air, the light, the smell of the damp earth, it is all exactly as you remember. You are overwhelmed with a nostalgia so powerful it feels like a physical illness. In this new hybrid world, your role undergoes another subtle but seismic shift. In Norway, you were an exotic creature, a foreign thrall. Here you are something else entirely. You speak the language of the land. The local English people who have been subjugated and now work as tenants or servants on their own ancestral farms speak your tongue. And your Norse masters, for all their military might, are immigrants struggling with a foreign language. Suddenly, you are useful in a way you have never been before. You become Ketil's unwilling translator, his reluctant cultural liaison. When he needs to negotiate with a local farmer for livestock, you are summoned to stand between them and turn his harsh Norse into the softer sounds of Old English. It's the ultimate awkward homecoming party, and you're the guest of honor who is also serving the drinks. This new role is a double-edged sword. It grants you a sliver of influence, a precarious importance. Ketil and even Astrid begin to treat you with a new, grudging respect. You are a key to this new world for them. But it also places you in an impossible position. To the local English, you are a collaborator, a woman who lives with their oppressors, the mother of a Norseman's son. You see the suspicion and hatred in their eyes. They do not see you as a fellow victim. They see you as a traitor. Historians still debate how peacefully the Norse settlers and the local Anglo-Saxon population coexisted in the Danelaw. You are living at the heart of that debate. You see the forced cooperation, the shared harvests, the trading of goods. You also see the simmering resentment, the whispered insults, the constant low-level friction between conqueror and conquered. You witness the quirky, fascinating signs of cultures colliding. You see a Norse settler's daughter wearing a cross alongside a hammer of Thor. You see an English carver incorporating Viking-style animal patterns into a new church door. It is a world in flux, and you are caught in the middle. You stand in a field one evening watching the sun set over the gentle English countryside. Magnus is chasing fireflies at the edge of the woods. This land is in your bones, in your blood, but it is not yours. The people who look like you and speak your language see you as an outsider. The people you live with whose language you now speak fluently will always see you as their property. You are no longer just a thrall. You are an interpreter, a bridge, a paradox. You have come home only to find that you are more of an exile than ever before. You are caught between two worlds, and you belong to neither. The landscape of your homeland has not changed, but the people in it are in a state of slow, constant transformation. You are a witness to the birth of a new culture, a strange and unintended consequence of violence and conquest. It is not a planned merger. It is a messy, organic, and sometimes reluctant blending of two powerful streams of tradition, and you are standing waist-deep in the current. It's a fascinating anthropological study, but you'd much rather be witnessing the development of a letting-you-go-free policy. It begins with language, the most fluid and immediate marker of identity. The clear line that once existed between your captor's Norse and your native English begins to blur and fray at the edges. You hear it first in the fields. An English tenant farmer trying to explain a broken plough to Kettle's son gestures and says the Norse word "nifa" for the blade, because it's the word his new masters use. Conversely, you hear the Norse settlers adopting English words for local plants and animals that don't exist in their homeland. This linguistic blending is a mainstream historical fact, the evidence of which is baked into the modern English language. You are hearing the birth of words like sky, egg, and window, Norse terms seeping into the local dialect and becoming permanent fixtures. The emerging pidgin is a practical tool for commerce and coexistence. You watch Magnus navigate this new world of Norglish with an ease that astounds you. He is a linguistic chameleon, switching between the guttural Norse of his father's hall and the softer English of the village children without a thought. He is the first generation of this new world, a boy for whom this hybrid language is not a compromise, but a native tongue. The most contentious area of this cultural fusion is faith. Your Norse family are pagan, the local English are Christian. The two belief systems eye each other with a deep and abiding suspicion. Ketil still sacrifices a portion of the harvest to Freya for fertility. Astrid still mutters charms to ward off ill luck. But the power and permanence of the Christian church with its stone buildings and its literate, organized clergy is an undeniable force. You start to see the edges blur. You see it when one of the younger Norse farmhands suffering from a fever allows the local priest to say a prayer over him, hedging his bets between Christ and Odin. You see it most vividly in the local crafts. A woodcarver hired by Ketil to adorn a new chest carves a panel depicting a dragon locked in combat with a serpent, a scene from Norse myth. But on the side panels he carves fish, a clear if subtle symbol of Christ. It's a piece of syncretic art, a visual prayer to two different pantheons. It's the 9th century equivalent of having a dream catcher and a crucifix hanging from your car's rearview mirror. Archaeologists and historians still debate the speed and extent of Norse conversion to Christianity in the Danelaw, and your household is a perfect case study. Astrid is the fierce guardian of the old ways, her contempt for the white Christ palpable. Ketil is more pragmatic, but remains a pagan at heart. It is his eldest son, your son's half-brother, who seems most open to the new faith. He sees the political utility of it, the way it can smooth relations with their English neighbours and connect them to the wider, powerful Christian kingdoms of Europe. He begins to attend church services, at first out of curiosity, then with a more serious regularity. The arguments between him and Astrid become a frequent low-level storm in the Longhouse. Your life is filled with this cultural negotiation. You are the one who has to explain the meaning of Easter to a confused Ketil who doesn't understand why a celebration of rebirth involves eggs and not a dramatic saga. In the winter, you find yourself trying to explain the solemnity of Christmas to the Norse children who are far more interested in the raucous, drunken feasting of their own Yule festival. It's getting hard to keep the holidays straight. Daily life becomes a tapestry woven with threads from both cultures. The Norse women, including Astrid's daughters, adopt the local style of baking bread in a clay oven, finding it superior to their method of cooking flatbreads on a griddle over the fire. In return, you see the English women begin to admire and copy the distinctive oval brooches the Norse women use to fasten their dresses, a small but significant adoption of Viking fashion. Through it all, you remain in the middle, belonging to neither side. Your flawless English, once a source of secret pride, now marks you as a potential sympathizer to the resentful locals. Your fluency in Norse and your position in Ketil's bed mark you as a collaborator. You have no community. Your only true country is Magnus. He is the only other person who exists in this strange borderland with you. One winter afternoon, you walk with Magnus through the local village. A light snow is falling, muffling the world in a soft white blanket. You pass the small stone church, and from within you can hear the familiar droning chant of Latin prayer. A few paces further on, you pass a great oak tree at the edge of the woods. A tree, the locals whisper, is sacred to the old gods, and you see a small pagan offering a ribbon tied to a branch fluttering in the wind. Christ and Odin existing side by side in the snow. Magnus, his hand in yours, looks from the church to the tree. He asks you with the simple, profound curiosity of a child, "Which one is stronger?" You look down at your son, this boy with a Norse name and an English face, a boy who knows the Lord's Prayer and the stories of Ragnarok, and you realize you have no answer. You are living in the answer. The lines are blurring, the old certainties are dissolving, and a new world is being born from the ashes of the old. And your son, this child of two worlds, is its first true citizen. Time continues its slow, grinding work, eroding the sharp edges of cultures and identities. Magnus is now a young man, tall and strong, his face a startling blend of your features and Ketil's. He moves between the Norse and English worlds with a natural grace that you both envy and fear. Your position in the household has solidified into one of strange, indispensable alienation. You are the memory, the translator, the living bridge between two worlds. One summer, a trading ship arrives from Norway, bringing with it not only goods, but relatives of Ketil's, a cousin, and his sons, their faces weathered by the sea. Their arrival is a cause for great feasting and celebration in the Longhouse, and as you move silently among them, refilling their drinking horns, you listen. The news they bring from the homeland is the most shocking you have heard since you were captured. The old gods are dying. It is not a sudden death. It is a slow political fading, an opportunistic sickness. The visitors speak of great kings and jarls, powerful men with names like Harold and Olaf, who have accepted baptism. They have taken the white Christ as their god, The travelers speak of this not as a profound spiritual awakening, but as a strategic alliance. It is, you realize, a major corporate rebranding, with the old pantheon of Odin and Thor being phased out for a new, more powerful deity with better international connections. According to the visitors, these newly Christian kings are enforcing the new faith with the sword. Pagan temples are being torn down, sacred groves burned. Those who refuse to convert are being exiled or killed. It is the most aggressive marketing campaign in history, a conversion at axe point. The irony is so bitter it tastes like poison in your mouth. The very methods these people use to destroy your world are now being used on them by their own leaders, all in the name of your God. The news lands like a thrown axe in the middle of Ketil's hall. The reaction is a perfect map of the generational and cultural shifts you have been witnessing for years. Ketil, now old and frail, is visibly disgusted. He spits into the fire, muttering that these kings are fools, trading the favor of true gods for the weak magic of a southern carpenter. Astrid is a statue of cold fury. This, to her, is the ultimate betrayal. It is an attack on their ancestors, their traditions, their very identity. Her faith in the old gods is not a political calculation. It is in her blood, in the soil of her homeland. She sees this as a spiritual plague sweeping in from the south, and she wants to bar the doors against it. But Ketil's eldest son, Leif the pragmatist, listens with a keen, calculating interest. He understands the geopolitics of it. He sees that the future belongs to the organized, wealthy, and interconnected Christian kingdoms of Europe. To remain pagan is to remain an outsider, a pirate, a barbarian. To convert is to join the winning team. He argues with his mother, his voice low and reasonable, but insistent. The world is changing, he says in Norse. We cannot stand against the tide.
In the days that follow, you see the ripple effects of this news from afar. The fabric of their certainty has been torn. Magnus comes to you, his young face troubled. "Is it true?" he asks you in English. "Is Odin dead?" How do you answer a question like that? How do you explain to a boy who is the son of a pagan chieftain and a Christian thrall that gods may live or die based on the ambitions of kings? You tell him that gods live in the hearts of those who believe in them, a simple, non-committal answer that feels both wise and utterly inadequate. You start to notice the change in the travelers themselves. They speak of the Christian God, but in their own terms. They don't talk of a gentle shepherd or a suffering savior. Their Christ is a warrior, a powerful chieftain. You overhear Ketil's cousin describing a new church where the crucifix depicts a triumphant crowned Christ, not a dying one. It's a quirky telling detail.
They are not so much adopting a new faith as they are refashioning it in their own image, making Christ a god who could comfortably lead a Viking warband. This leads to the question that now hangs over everything. Historians still debate how much of the old pagan belief system survived under a thin veneer of Christianity. You are watching that question play out in real time. Will Leif, when he becomes master of this hall, truly become a Christian? Or will he just add Christ to the pantheon? A new god to be placated alongside the old ones? Will he still fear the trolls in the deep woods? Will he still leave a bowl of milk out for the landvettir, the spirits of the land? You suspect the old ways will not die, but will simply go underground, becoming superstition folklore, a quiet whisper beneath the loud formal prayers to a new god. For you, this slow creeping conversion of your captors is a source of profound conflict. For years, your Christian faith has been a secret garden in your mind, a private sanctuary they could not touch. Now they are clumsily trampling into that garden, claiming it as their own. But their version of your faith feels like a hollow mockery. It brings no repentance for what they did to your people, to your family, to you. It is a political tool, a flag of convenience. It does not set you free. One night, long after the visitors have departed, you see something that confirms your suspicions. You are awake, late, nursing Magnus through a mild fever. You see Astrid, believing everyone to be asleep, rise from her bed. She moves silently to the hearth, and from a hidden pouch she takes a small carved wooden idol, a figure of a woman, Freya, the goddess of love and fate. She whispers a prayer to it, a soft, urgent plea in the ancient Norse tongue. Then she kisses the idol and sprinkles a few grains of barley into the dying embers of the fire, a small, secret sacrifice. You watch from the shadows, your heart aching with a strange mix of emotions. She is your tormentor, the symbol of your subjugation. But in this moment you see her as something else, a woman desperately trying to hold on to her fading world, making a secret, defiant stand against an inevitable future. You realize that while the great gods of kings and armies may be fading, the smaller, older gods of the hearth and the heart are much, much harder to kill. The river of time flows on, smoothing the sharpest stones to pebbles. Decades pass. The world you knew, the world that captured you, and the world you were captured from have all but vanished, replaced by something new. You are an old woman now. Your hair is the color of snow, and your memories are a country that no one else can visit. Ketil is long dead, buried on a hill overlooking his English farm, his grave marked by a rough stone that has both a cross and a coiled serpent carved into it, a final, eternal compromise. Astrid, too, is gone. She faded in her old age, a fierce, proud pagan queen, watching her world slowly convert to a faith she despised her power, passing to her pragmatic Christian son, Leif. The longhouse is quieter now, the old gods little more than fireside tales to frighten children. Magnus is a man in his prime, his face lined by the sun, his hands strong and capable. He is neither a thrall nor a chieftain. He holds a respected but ambiguous place, the master's half-brother, a skilled farmer, a man of two worlds who has earned a grudging respect from both. He married a local English woman, a quiet, kind girl named Edith. And their children, your grandchildren, are the living, breathing embodiment of the history you have survived. You sit by the hearth, your hands busy with mending, and you watch them. You watch your grandson Knut, who has Ketil's fierce grey eyes but your dark English hair. You watch your granddaughter Elfrida, who has blonde Norse braids but the soft brown eyes of her mother. They chatter in the blended tongue of the Danelaw, a language of Norse nouns and English verbs, a river fed by two powerful streams. They are the future. They are the echoes in the bloodline. You are, in essence, witnessing 1,000 years of Ancestry.com results being created in real time. The sharp, violent distinction between us and them, between English and Norse, which defined your entire life, is meaningless to them. They are simply from here. They are the children of the Danelaw. When you look around the settlement now, you see this blending everywhere. The clear lines have been irrevocably blurred. The genetic footprint of those dragon ships is now stamped onto the very faces of the people. This is the great unwritten legacy of the Viking Age, not just conquest, but a vast, chaotic, and often brutal mixing of peoples that would shape the future of this island for 1,000 years. The historical truth, the one that modern science would one day prove with DNA, is that the men who came in those ships left their mark not just on the land, but in the blood. Historians and geneticists still debate the exact ratio of male Viking settlers to female, but your own life is a testament to the common pattern. Men came to conquer and settle, and they took wives and concubines from the local population. You and thousands of women like you became the unwilling mothers of a new hybrid people. Your personal tragedy was a catalyst for a nation's genetic reinvention. But the legacy is more than just blood. It's in the soil. You hear the local farmers arguing about property lines and grazing rights at a new assembly, a public gathering they call a thing or thing. It's a Norse custom, a form of local parliament transplanted into English soil. It's a quirky, surprisingly orderly system for a people once known only for chaos. You see Norse farming techniques improving the local yields. You see the layout of the villages themselves changing, adopting the familiar pattern of a central farmstead with outlying fields. It's in the very names of the places. The small market town that grew up near the trading post is now called Grimsby, Grim's Village. Another settlement down the river is Thorpe, the Norse word for an outlying farmstead. The raiders have literally put themselves on the map. You have lived to see the fury of the Northmen settle, domesticate, and become part of the land itself. The grand Viking project, which you experienced as a terrifying storm of violence, seems to have ended up being less conquest and domination, and more begrudgingly sharing farming tips and creating a new language. One day, Elfrida, your granddaughter, climbs into your lap. She has found the little bone bird which you keep in a small wooden box. She asks you what it is. You look into her curious, innocent face, a face that is a perfect blend of two peoples, and you decide to tell her. You do not tell her the story of the raid, of the fear and the fire and the loss. That is a burden she does not need to carry. Instead, you tell her a simpler story. You tell her of a girl who lived by the sea in a land of green fields, a girl who was given this bird as a promise. You speak in pure, unblended English, your mother tongue, the words feeling like smooth, familiar stones in your mouth. Elfrida listens, her head tilted, trying to follow the old-fashioned words. You realize in that moment what you are. You are the last one. The last one who remembers a world before the dragon ships, a world that was purely English. Everyone else has been born into the blur. You are a living fossil, a relic of a lost time. You give the bird to Elfrida. You press it into her small hand. It is no longer just your secret, your anchor. It is now a story, a piece of the history that made her. A small, almost invisible thread of English memory to be woven into the grand, complex, and often violent tapestry of her Norse heritage. She is the echo in the bloodline, and you are the whisper that gives it a past. The last years of your life are quiet. You are a still point in a world that continues to change around you. You are the revered, slightly feared old woman who sits by the fire, the one with the strange, far-off look in her eyes, the one who sometimes speaks in a language of ghosts. Your grandchildren and great-grandchildren are a noisy, vibrant, beautiful blur of hybrid life. They are the children of the Danelaw, and their world is one of settled farms, bustling market towns, and a single god whose priests now speak a Norse-inflected English. The dragon ships are legends now, stories told to wide-eyed children. The fury of the North has become a half-remembered myth. You are the only one left who remembers the terror. You are the only one who remembers the flames. And then one quiet evening, you fade. You close your eyes in the smoky warmth of the longhouse your captors built on your homeland, surrounded by the faces of your new family, and you drift away on a silent tide. Your long, improbable, and heartbreaking journey is over. But the story does not end. Your story, your specific individual tale, simply dissolves, becoming part of a much larger, older narrative. You are no longer the girl with the bone bird, the captive on the longship, the thrall in Kettle's Hall. You are now an ancestor, a ghost, a whisper in the blood. You become one of the countless women whose lives were the true currency of the Viking Age. History, as it is written down, is a story of men. It is a catalogue of kings and their battles, of jarls and their voyages. It is found in the Icelandic sagas and the Anglo-Saxon chronicle, grand narratives that are almost entirely focused on the deeds of powerful men. The men who sailed the ships, swung the axes and forged the kingdoms, get their names carved on rune stones. There is even a quirky and remarkable book, the Landnámabók, the Book of Settlements, that names the founders of Iceland. And while some powerful women are mentioned, the vast majority of the stories belong to men. History is mostly a story of dudes doing stuff written by other dudes. The women, it seems, were too busy keeping society from collapsing to make the evening news. Your story is not in those books. Your name is not on a stone. Your life exists in the unwritten histories, the evidence that cannot be easily read. You are a strand of mitochondrial DNA passed down from mother to child, a silent biological testament to your survival that will echo through 1,000 years of your descendants. You are a slight change in the shape of a jawline, the unexpected darkness of hair in a fair-haired family, a genetic ghost at a future family reunion. You are the reason a place is named after a person, and the reason that person's descendants now live there. This is the great unanswered question that sits at the heart of the past. Historians still debate how we can reconstruct the lives of non-elites, especially women, from a historical record that was created by and for powerful men. The answer is that we must listen for the whispers. We must look at the gaps in the story, at the evidence written in bone and blood and language. Your life is an answer to that question. It is an act of historical imagination, an attempt to give a voice to the silent foundational figures of the past. You fade from the particular and become the universal. You are the Irish woman taken to Iceland, the Slavic woman sold in a market on the Volga, the Frankish woman who became a chieftain's friller in Normandy. Your experiences, the terror of the raid, the misery of the voyage, the humiliation of the slave market, the long, slow grind of survival, the complex birth of a new generation, are the shared secret history of thousands. Your legacy is not one of glory or power. It is the legacy of endurance. It is the quiet, stubborn, and profound victory of simply surviving. You did not choose your fate, but you shaped it. You carved out a space for yourself, for your son, for your memories. You bent without breaking. You held on to the tiny secret core of your identity, the story of the girl with the bone bird, and you passed that story, that flicker of an older world, into the future. The violence and the chaos of your era eventually settled like dust. The great Viking Age ended. The raiders became farmers, the conquerors became kings, the pagans became Christians, and the children of women like you, the children of two worlds, inherited it all. They became the English, they became the Normans, they became the Russ, they became the Icelanders. The echoes of your life, your pain and your survival are not just in a single bloodline. They are in the very foundations of the modern world. Your story isn't in the history books, it is the history. And so your part in the story comes to a gentle close. The specific details of your life, The sharp edges of your pain and the brief, bright moments of your joy all begin to soften like a landscape seen through a gathering twilight. The image of the longhouse with its smoky air and its flickering hearth grows distant, the voices of its inhabitants fading into a soft, indistinct murmur that blends with the sound of the wind outside. The great grey sea that was the stage for so much of your life's drama becomes calm and quiet, its waves now just a gentle rhythmic shushing on a far and lonely shore. You are no longer a single person, but a timeless presence, a silent ancestor whose strength and resilience have flowed down through countless generations, a quiet, invisible current in the great river of time. Your story, which began in terror, has found its way to a place of peace, a place of rest. You have endured, you have survived, and now your long watch is over. The memories are safe, the legacy is secure, and all that is left is a profound and deserved silence. End of script. Sweet dreams.